Hello. Thank you for tuning in to Commentary is Magic. We're covering BABSCon 2022. Uh, it's me, Animoy, and Eminently Sensible. How are you,
Hey,
Eminently?
I'm doing very well. Excited to see some adventure.
Adventure format. This is Equestrian Odysseys and later.
Adventure is in that kind of odd position where some of the cards are print and play, and then some of them are the older ones that were sold in packs. But that it's things are very interesting. There's a lot of nostalgia when you're playing adventure, and then
Yes.
there's also a lot of very new cards that are quite powerful and everyone has access to.
What are your some of your favorite decks to play in Adventure so far?
I would say that it's hard to beat Luna. So by Luna, I mean the blue one, Dream Warrior. She is just always a highlight of pretty much any format that has her. Aggro is just kind of fun to play, but doesn't always get the success that comes with so many people playing it. And Luna
hmm
is the champion of aggro. So hoping to see some of that for sure.
So are you thinking that's mono blue Luna or blue pink Luna?
Oh, that is a good question. Um, it honestly could depend on who's playing it. I I'm not aware if Smithers is there or not, but I know that he would be playing mono.
Smithers is there.
Well, I bet we might see some mono Bluna.
All right.
Prismlight is not looking forward to blue or pink winning, um, and I do think that we've got uh, some fairly strong purple in adventure. There's some strong orange in adventure. Yellow has been quite good in core and adventure. So even though blue and pink are both very strong,
hmm
I would say that the color pie is pretty wide open still in the format.
What's the new blue problem that lets you move a character from home?
Yes, tarnished reputation. So
Tarnish
you have to
reputation. That makes
only be blue, but
that
you
makes
get to
Bluna
move for
even
free.
better.
It's great for Bluna, and it's also very strong for farm. Blue
Yes.
farm is definitely a big thing in adventure.
That's probably what I would play if I was playing adventure and I was serious and really trying to win. I would probably do some kind of blue farm.
Yeah, something like farm used to be unreasonably expensive to play, and print and play
Oh
has
yeah.
helped a lot for that. It's also a very fun archetype. I could definitely see farm. I would probably be playing some style of aggro.
I believe Ivory is playing Ambassador Rainbow Dash Farm.
And then I believe Arakat is going to be trying a Luna farm.
Yes, Ara has Bluna. Though I can't remember who is judging today. Someone
I
is
think
judging
it
and
might be
won't be playing.
Grandpa's.
If Grandpa's was going to play, he was going to play Reanimator.
Right. Um, which is certainly still an open question because I don't think anybody's really played Reanimator since Cadence was banned. So no one really knows how
hmm
strong it is. Kirst asked if we know the turnout. I heard that it was good, but I do not know what it is.
I heard it was more than Continentals, so that sounds good. We had 10 yesterday at Core, I know that. I see we have searching high and low on the right side. Someone wants to go fast.
And then Mystery at Hope Hollow, which is a starting problem that you don't see much because it doesn't give you a lot of benefit in the beginning. And it's basically this player on the left, this Solano, is confident that I don't need help at the beginning. And then once we get past these first problems, that free dig is going to be worth it. Certainly worth saying here, we've got Octavia. You don't see much Octavia, so that's already fairly exciting. It looks like folks are sideboarding right now.
The scarf on the left looks familiar, but I'm not sure who it is. I can't quite read the name tag. It might be Kevin Changeling on the right.
Alright, shall we roll d20 and see who goes first?
Yep, I got one.
Alright, highest go first.
Yep. 15.
61.
Just by one. If you would cut the deck.
It might be Double R Forest on the left.
Okay, exciting.
He gets out to a lot of conventions. I know I've seen him at Winnie City before.
Thank you. Oh, no worries.
Gosh, I haven't been out to a con for
No, I haven't.
quite a while.
I haven't either. I did go to. I take that back. I went to Ramen Con last fall, and I did go to Cider Fest last fall.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Because Cider
that's pretty
Fest,
cool.
they're both driving distance for me, so.
This will work.
Good old Midwest cons. That's where Continentals used to be.
Yeah. I never went to Gen Con, though. I started a little late for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely a very exciting, huge haul, but there was a lot going on besides pony
Sure.
stuff.
Do you think they'll see this?
So I wonder if the left side is playing farm because of the Hope Hollow problem. Maybe they want to search for a Troublemaker.
Just to let you know, this is my scorecard.
I would be forced to assume we'd see Tarnished Reputation if this were farm. I'm thinking it might be more of a
makes sense.
mid-range speed, maybe something like a Spin to Win.
Yes.
So I can tell you.
Yeah, they'll
Mid-range is probably my favorite, though I'm not very successful at it.
Trust me, I have been improving over the last few days.
Mid-range is a very wide archetype where you can typically afford to do very interesting things, but that does mean that you can sometimes in deck building lose focus when you have a mid-range deck. So they can be tough to build. I do see white in there, so it looks like on the left we might be seeing more of that kind of sweet spot of it's an aggro, it's a combo, it's going to move pretty quickly, and it's going to be hard to slow down.
in 3 now.
Maybe it'll have some Frighten shenanigans. I see.
Those colors are
I see.
very
I see
Frighten heavy.
Tempest Shadow on the left side, so that makes sense with Solano.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just briefly here. When I say Spin to Win, what I mean is that, so Solano on the left, she flips by paying 2, and then you score 2 points. Tempest, the Troublemaker that Animoy spotted in that left player's hand, lets you flip a main character back down. That's usually used on your opponent's main character, but for Solano, it's very good on your own main character. So you use that to just kind of unstoppably score 2 points several times in a game, and that's already getting you pretty close to winning.
Yeah, it's like a little extra boost in case you have trouble farming your stuff if it's farm.
I must say, Saddle Row Review coming out on the right, that is a big get for Octavia. Saddle Row Review is a new card. It scores you, well, when you score, you also gain actions equal to the number of points scored. Almost always that's going to be 1, because you usually score points 1 at a time. But things like bonuses, you can have a 2-point bonus. That's going to be really big for an aggro deck like Octavia.
Yeah, it's Saddle Row is one of my favorite new cards. I've gotten into trouble with it before where I'll be going for a double confront with a 2 bonus. I'll confront the first problem and kind of wait until
For 2.
maybe we get the face off, and then my other confront is disrupted, and I get no AT that turn.
Plus 2 power unit every turn.
Yes. Attempt to confront. Gaining 1.
So this is going fast. We've got another confront already for Kevin.
Yep, we've got the combination of players who are not kidding around, moving at a pretty good pace, and 2 aggro decks. So this one might be over quick. Now, of course, that Tempest Troublemaker could slow Octavia down a bit.
Yes.
Troublemakers are pretty hard for Octavia, who I guess I haven't explained what Octavia does. The people watching likely know, but she is an older card. So when a friend, yours or an opponent's, enters play at a problem, you can give a character there 2 strength. Usually that's going to be your friends, which you are playing during the main phase. So getting extra strength during the Troublemaker phase can be tough for Octavia. So getting rid of Troublemakers, usually you're going to see her use an event or maybe a dilemma. So getting a Troublemaker out early could slow down Octavia if she doesn't have that yet.
Pay 2 to flip Solano, score 2 points. Alright. Then pay 1, flip Troublemaker.
Alright.
And that's it.
Draw. Gain 3.
Though Applejack is locking her down. So it doesn't matter until you get another exhausted character. Or your main. Like, your main will always get left. Or, well, she can't target.
So at this point, if I were the player on the left, I would be wondering if I'm up against a mono white Octavia or an Octavia with an additional color.
Okay.
That's going to kind of change how I play against it. However, of course, nobody really knows how to play against Octavia right now because nobody's played Octavia for so long. But if this is only a mono white Octavia,
For now, just
she's going to have
1 1 total.
fairly few good responses to Troublemakers. And that means that keeping those Tempests around and actually using them to grief your opponent might be a very strong strategy.
Is that the new resource on the right that creates unicorn friend tokens?
Yes, so that that Pegasus that we're seeing there is probably supposed to be a unicorn. So we have not been conclusively told that that player is playing blue. That should have been, a white unicorn.
Sadly for them, a villain is flipped and the friends are frightened.
Yep, which is even worse for tokens because they just go away completely.
Banish this Troublemaker, so I may search for a Troublemaker in my deck and put it in the fight. Banish will be here.
Left player banishes Grogar. I think we know what they might be looking for.
Yep, very likely a Tempest. Typically, those are the only 2 Troublemakers you'll see in one of these Tempest Solano decks, is the Tempest and the Grogars, which are able to dig you additional Tempests. And that means that at this point, since the left player has a Grogar, he's going to be able to find all 3 Tempests in his deck just within the next couple of turns here, because that Grogar is going to come back and then dig a new Tempest.
Yes, if the player on the left has 1 AT to spare at the end of the turn, they can bring in Grogar face up at the right player's problem, banishing that Tempest.
Yep, though, honestly, if I were that player, I'm not sure if I would do it just yet. It's an interesting question, whether or not to just sit on the Troublemakers. I might want to wait a bit before blowing up any of my own Troublemakers, just because this Octavia may not have good answers to them, and I might want to wait until the Octavia has already forced her hand, and then start doing my own Troublemaker shenanigans.
Pay 1 and banish my Troublemaker.
And here comes the
This
Grogar.
ends my face up.
Good.
That's it.
Alright.
I mean, like you said, it also, you know, if you save your Tempests for later, the other player gets less AT up until then.
That's true. Yeah, so I believe at this point
One. Crack.
we are at 4
Ooh, a
points.
crack in the case.
All right, cracking the case. I mean, a very strong card from Adventure. You don't see that one in Core, and boy, do white players miss it.
One.
However, a banish of the Grogar Troublemaker is a less powerful version of it.
That's a great point. Usually Banish is better, but against Grogar, he works almost exclusively from the banished zone. So it's less of a problem.
Thorax. Power. And because of Unity.
Ooh, looks like we're getting some changelings on the right.
Yes, so that Summoning Bell, one of the great things about Octavia is that she works on Enter's Play. You do not have to play a card, so tokens do apply. So I believe at this point, okay, yeah. So the right player needed one more strength to get over the edge, and he's using the Aoizodal, which is very interesting. Nobody has played that card, even though it is a very neat card. So happy to see it here. It starts with 0 strength, but then it gains strength over time. Let me look up how that card works.
It depends on the number of points scored, I believe.
And when this problem becomes solved, I may search my deck for a card with no play requirement, reveal it, and put it to my deck.
Yes.
So double problem face-off, and the left player will search their deck for a card with no requirement.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna.
Yep, so that's the first time the left player flipped their problem. So this is the first time that they're actually getting a benefit out of it. Now, it does make sense why Solana would want that problem, because it can get you Tempests or Grogars. But at this point, I'm not sure really what they want, because they also already have entry.
Get rid of prepare token. No.
I don't think that deck plays Staff, but maybe it does.
I believe there should be one more Tempest in that deck.
I would say that it might be better to have the Tempest in the deck than in your hand, just because if you've got the Grogar, you can pull it at any time and not really have to worry about paying for it at the time. Captain was. That's interesting. So more white entry. It does make sense because he's only got 2 white entry right now, and I'm sure he's got plenty of cards that need more than that.
Cut the deck, and I'll replace the problem. Alright.
Captain Was is a good idea, but I don't know if he'll easily be able to get a Troublemaker into the discard pile.
So we're at 4.
Yes.
4 tokens. Card.
That is a good point. Yeah, especially because it's looking more and more like this Octavia is mono white, in which case all of the Troublemaker effects are likely to be banish. And you're just so unlikely to see that Octavia beat a Troublemaker the honest way. What you could see, of course, is just the Octavia doing a double face-off, and that would send a Troublemaker into the discard. Using, like, a dilemma, of course.
On the right side, it looks like we have that new... Is that the new starting problem that helps you flip your main?
Yeah, so I'm going to guess that the right player has 1 copy of that, just in case they're up against control, to use as a starting problem, and they are not happy to see it right now.
Yeah.
It's probably not a big deal, but they could have seen much better problems, for sure.
But yeah, that really gives a help to mains that need a confront to flip. However, I believe it needs a Troublemaker there, so...
Pay 3 to play.
Right, yeah. And I'm betting that Octavia didn't even bring her own Troublemakers, so it's really only there if she's up against a control deck. Prism Light is mentioning that seeing Octavia double with dilemmas is maybe a little less likely just because White's dilemmas are very hard to use.
Yeah.
Oh, well. So I'm struggling to figure out which one that is just by looking at it, but it does look like it's big. Most of White's dilemmas cost 2 to play, which for an Octavia can be fairly challenging.
Token into play, plus power, so it meets it now.
Looks like it's 2 power or 2 bonus, but
Booty bell here.
the left players is also 2 bonus. So
I will attempt to confront.
Alright.
Alright, 1. Attempt to confront.
and we have
Well,
a double
as-
confront.
Okay, so
Yep, as is usual with Octavia, the problem is already gone before we've even figured out what it is.
However, now Tempest will go to the discard pile.
Oh, yes. That's going to be... That guy is probably feeling pretty good about his decision-making there, pulling the was.
that's gone. That's 4 of these. That's gone as well.
I would say that probably he doesn't want to use that effect just yet because he still hasn't played any white cards. So he might be waiting. Well, he might want to wait until he's actually used that entry to do something.
All yours.
They're gonna need to clear out that Tempest there.
5.
Yeah, they may have forgotten here, but that should be a new problem.
Oh, they didn't even replace it?
Oh, this red.
Yeah, just because they did a double on a dilemma, and I think they forgot to replace the left player's problem.
Yeah.
So I think we should reach out to the folks on the floor if they don't notice this.
Way ahead of you.
Alright, so
All right.
pay 2 to play a changeling can change. I'm going to move up 2 my characters.
I have no problem. I have problems, but I have nothing
Then-
I'm going to do to stop you.
Pay 3 to play Rarity Pony Pirate.
Okay.
So I'm going to confront that, score a point.
No, no, no.
When I confront this problem, if it's the first time this problem has been confronted,
No, no, no.
score the problem's bonus. So 2. And then when I confront this problem, I may retire this card to score 2 points.
I can definitely see why he wanted that to still be in
Grand
play.
pause, please hurry.
Did you replace your problem when the face-off took place?
Oh, that's right. That needs to be replaced.
Oh.
Because we did the DFO.
Huh. Okay.
Sorry, go back. So just replace the problem. You leave the troublemaker where it would be at that problem, but just get the new problem in play. There you go. Okay.
Well, the troublemaker also goes. We
That's
Are your characters still there already?
Wait, okay,
Have you,
so how far...
have you moved them this turn? We can go back to the
yes, he has played this to move them and played that card.
Okay.
I
Rewind till the start of this. Have you interacted with him on his turn?
I've done nothing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just rewind to the start of your turn.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
That's embarrassing.
Like, it's my fault for not noticing either.
Yeah, let's see here.
I pinged Grand Pause again to tell him the Troublemaker needs to go.
Well, both players were very civil about it. Definitely both good sports, and it looks like we have been able to restore the game state.
Ahead and do the...
I mean, that Tempest needs to go, but
I had 7 or 8. I think it was 7.
probably we're going to get that part, and that shouldn't cause too much friction here.
So I'm doing that to move these 2 over here.
Or where's was he?
There.
Was the TM present there at the face-off? The TM should be gone as well?
Yeah, team should be gone. Sorry.
Huzzah!
Wow, we're having a bad day.
We did it. I'm proud of us, Animoy.
Okay, so that's there. Then pay 3 to play Rarity Pony Pirate.
And certainly, I would say that the fact that we needed to do a bit of rewinding there is not going to be a problem time-wise in a game like this.
So the Rarity Pony Pirate gets to be retired and more points.
Yeah.
Yes, so still a very good turn for the Solano. Now, obviously, final question is the problem that was there, which would have given that left player 2 extra points just for showing up, which is truly incredible, and it would be pretty reasonable if he was disappointed for not getting that. But I think he's still in a fairly nice position here. That is a good number of points, but the Octavia is kind of set up at this point, and that could be problematic because that Octavia is going to just keep scoring points. I don't know what her score is right now. I don't see
I
a
think
tracker.
the right side is 11 and the left side is 10, I think.
Okay. Well, definitely a close game, but since it's the right player's turn, I can only assume that that score is going to go up.
What was the event Kevin played on the right? Is that Fit of Peak?
Yes, Fit of Peak.
That would banish a card, would banish the Tempest from the left player's discard pile.
That must be what it was used for, unless he used it for his own discard. But that seems very likely. I will say that even though the guy on the left didn't get to confront final question, we do see now, I believe that's prospecting interruption, which Octavia will not get a point for confronting that. You can still confront it, but
Yeah.
you don't score points. It's very painful. Now, aggro players are obviously still going to go there just to get double
Yes.
face-offs, but not getting a point is a big deal. So even though the guy on the left didn't get those 2 points, which would have been pretty nice, he is denying his opponent 1 point, which is also very nice.
And let's watch carefully and make sure they don't score it.
Attempt to confront here first.
I have no AT.
Alright, I will attempt over here.
Okay, and you
making
score 1 point because you don't.
Oh,
score
they
points
know.
Confronting this problem.
Yes.
And face off.
Right player's at 12. Gets their AT from Saddle Row.
And just for confronting that one only, right?
Yeah, just for confronting, you still get a bonus.
Okay. Thank you for correcting me.
That Aoizodal is definitely showing why it's a good card, being able to confront all on its own. In an Octavia, you almost always see 2 characters at every problem, because the first character doesn't have anyone to give a bonus to, but that Aoizodal is at least 5, because the right player is was at 11 for that, I suppose. And it gives extra strength equal to half your score rounded down. So that Aoizodal is at 5 or 6 or so. And it only costs, well, it costs more to play depending on how much score you have, but he played it a little early, so it didn't cost too much to play then.
So yeah, that was good that they were able to play that early. Doing okay on home limit on the right.
Yeah, it looks like the right player retired his tokens, but that's all he had to hit.
Left
I'm
player
definitely-
got. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, if I'm the Solano player right now going into this turn, I'm definitely not happy. The Solano player pointed out during the last score phase that he didn't have any action tokens. He wasn't able to prevent that Octavia from scoring. Now he's kind of 1 turn behind in the step, so he's probably going to be able to catch up to Octavia's point this turn. But Octavia is probably in a position to win next turn. So the Solano needs to do something to not only score, but additionally kind of cover his tail and make sure that he can prevent Octavia from winning, which is very hard. However, Sans Smirk is a really good way to slow your opponent down.
Aoizodal.
Understood? So you can't gain points.
Yep. And then finally,
So what Sans Smirk does is you choose a card, and your opponent can't score points using cards with that name, which means the Aoizodal that was chosen, if that Aoizodal is involved in a double face-off, you won't get the bonus points for winning the face-off. I'm pretty sure.
And
It's
it only has 2 racks, so easy to get out.
yeah,
And
yeah. The Solano has
player
not played Woods yet.
left player did play the Saddle Row storefront from their hand. Thought it might be kind of late to get that out, but
Players can't score points
I guess
with
it
cards
pays
that
for
many
itself on same
Yeah,
turn.
it pays for itself turn 1 if you can score. So it's not quite as good as an action generator because you also need to be moving. So you need to both be able to score and have 1 action left over. But if you do, yeah, it pays for itself immediately. It's very good. So I suppose it's not too surprising that we're seeing both players with it.
It's at what power?
7.
7. Just for Octavia.
Yes.
And then +1 for that.
Yes. And I'm gonna play Rarity. Down to 3. So plus power this one instead.
So
you're
Octavia is already at 7.
Plus 5. It's 14.
Then we've got just some huge characters. I'm not sure why the right player wants to do so many, but it's probably because he's only 2 points away from winning, and he wants to make sure he can win the face-off.
So no face off.
Okay.
Alright, GG.
Oh, he's got the event that gives you a point.
We will get match slips ready.
All right, yeah, he was just covering his tracks and making sure that he could get those points as safely as possible, which is the right call. You know, you want to make sure that if your opponent is saving for a trick, which probably he was, he did save an action, that you're just being safe and you've got enough power.
However, I noticed it's at the top of my deck, so I figured I just draw it. So that's was with the
That score a point event got me once. You look at your opponent, you see how much AT they have and how many points they have and how many are on the board, and you say, okay, I should be okay for another turn, and then they play that, and it's GG.
Yeah, yep. It that's why point acceleration cards are so meaningful because points are usually fairly predictable. Like, you know, you don't know what bonuses are coming out on problems, but you know your opponent's probably going to be able to score 4, or if both problems are 1, you know, 3 points in a turn. And just having those extra cards in your hand, that hidden information where you can just get that extra little sniping power, is a really big deal.
Yeah, and it's not like the point is on a friend like a Pony Pirate where you see it coming and you maybe can react to it. It's just boom, event comes out and the point is scored.
At least it wasn't a lance.
No, it was like honestly very close. If I didn't get that one, you would have won next turn.
Cursed did point out that Sandsmirk could have named Unicorn Token, which certainly
You were so
would be
fast earlier.
a
I
big
thought it
deal
was another
because you know, unicorn tokens are coming down for free every turn and bringing 3 power, and in this case with that problem bringing 5 power because the problem also gave extra strength for enters play. So you would expect, you know, your opponent's probably going to be using the unicorn tokens all the time, and using Sandsmirk can kind of tamp that down. However, you know, at the end of things, Octavia was in a fairly commanding position here, so Sands just probably wasn't going to be enough, no matter what was called.
And I believe Sands came out when everything was at home for Kevin on the right, and that means that they'll just move something different.
That is true. I mean, yeah. By that last turn, especially with having that event in hand, definitely the game was going to go to Octavia. So the choice on the Sands is not a big deal. And Aoizodal is a pretty good call as well. But
But if the left player had 1 AT more, maybe they could have played a Troublemaker a couple turns ago.
right, and that is, you know, a big part of playing against aggro is that you just don't have enough time. Solano moves very fast, but is not usually going to move as quickly as an Octavia or a Luna, and kind of needs to rely on the bigger burst potential. Like that Solano can score like 6 points in a turn, can do these big things, can even farm Grow Guards, you know, in rare edge cases probably. But when you're playing up against a quick deck where things are going well, there are only maybe going to be 8 or 9 turns in the game. You don't have very much time to set up tricks. You don't have very much time to draw into what you need. Honestly, I think that the Solano had a pretty good game there, but the
Yes.
Octavia, just had enough speed that the Solano was never really able to do any of the fancier stuff. Like, she barely ever got to use white cards, really.
And I like that the left player has a Trixie scorecard.
Ah, that's a good point. Yeah. High Magic. The
Trixie,
good old days.
Trixie main is legal in Adventure.
That's true. And honestly, fairly strong. So we could certainly see that being played here. It mostly depends on if we have a player with the expertise and the willingness to bring a pretty involved combo. You do need to draw through your whole deck. But it's certainly strong. It would win games if we saw it, and it would be interesting to watch.
These are 2 great playmats also.
Very true. Yes, we've been blessed here. Were these playmats brought by the players or just sponsored by Sim here?
I'm guessing by the players.
Well, I mean, we're seeing a 2015 one, and then the belly flop card was maybe 2017. So these are both players who've been around the block. Got some of those old fancy ones.
I'd like to get my hands on one like the right one.
I have a story about my one of those on the right. My brother earned it in a chaos tournament. It's just like one of those ridiculous games where the organizers are just kind of throwing all sorts of crazy, ridiculous nonsense at you. I wasn't playing the chaos because I was tired that year because this was a Continentals and I had kind of had a slog of a tournament. But my brother got that playmat, and I was just eating Panda Express and watching all of the silliness happen and kind of feeling like I was missing out. And I held the mat, and within about 5 minutes of holding the mat, I dropped my orange chicken onto it. Not my best point.
-11. And then she also had Magnus' Shield, Rogar's Lair, Rogar's Bell.
Well, he's your brother, so hopefully he forgave you.
And she still hadn't pulled a single one of those things.
Yeah,
At that point, I was like, okay,
I didn't even get so much as a stern talking to. We both found it funny. For me, it was sad funny. Just showing how far the con had dragged me down into the con crud.
Literal
These
con
tournaments
crud
can-
from the orange chicken.
These tournaments can certainly be quite long, and pony cards, as I'm sure everybody here knows, is a fairly tough game. It's hard to play perfectly. You're gonna see mistakes in almost every game. You really, it's an engaging game to play against equally powered players, especially in high stakes tournaments like this. And as days goes on, you're gonna see more and more mistakes. And the person with the most endurance, especially in something like Top Cut, which we'll see later in the day, is going to have a huge advantage.
Yes, the top cut will be at 9 p.m. Pacific time. And we will be there for that as well. Even though it's pretty late for us.
Yes, both of us are central, so we'll be staying up into the next day, most likely.
For you, the loyal fans.
as we kind of predicted, the game ended before time limit is called. So, what's happening at this point is everybody else who played their farms and their controls all are still finishing up their games, and our two aggro champions here are moving on with their lives and get to scout out the competition.
That's the thing, farm control, it just means more fun time.
You certainly do spend more time playing. I will say that it can be a surprisingly big advantage in an in-person con like this to have time and just look at all the decks that you're going to be playing against. Especially now that sideboarding is a thing.
Yes.
You don't just have to see the main and the starting problem. You might actually have seen that player play earlier. So that little extra time you have between games to just get kind of this free, incredibly valuable information, it's a nice little benefit.
I myself, I don't have a ton of convention play tournament experience, and when I play Control, I tend to run into the 35-minute time limit earlier than I'd like to.
Yeah, yeah. Us control players certainly hit that time limit like a brick. Um, I I used to be more of a control player. Um, in the last 2 years of fewer cons, I've started playing a little quicker decks. So, like you said, there's a 35-minute time limit. Now, typically, that's going to be soft time. I guess I'm not aware of these tournaments rules, but it should be 35 minutes soft time, and then 40 is the hard time limit.
Yes, they are playing the 35-minute time limit now that they're in person and there's no computers to reboot or networks that get
Right.
slow.
Yep, that's only us who have that problem still. But yeah, so in 35 minutes, it's pretty common for a game between two decks that aren't aggro to last maybe an hour. So when you're control, playing a 35-minute game in this Swiss tournament style, you're very unlikely to actually win by getting to 15 points. You're probably going to try to slow your opponent down, and it is very hard. Control typically is at a disadvantage for these
Early
Swiss
rounds.
rounds. Yeah. And then in the top cut, that kind of flip flops. And then control is more in their element, and the aggro starts to struggle.
I heard Grandpa's yelling, but I don't know if that was for
Yeah.
new matchups or for
We've
a
got
time
silence
limit.
here on the con floor, so I assume everybody's crowding around a piece of paper.
But that was a good first match. I was glad that we were able to get our 2 cents in there when a problem wasn't replaced.
Yeah, we are already heroes of
We are
this
the
tournament.
heroes of the con, yes.
I believe Solano lost by more than 2 points, so I don't think it made the difference. I don't think anybody was robbed either way by the outcome there. But yeah, it's always good to keep an eye out, and you, faithful watchers here, definitely let us know in the chat if you're spotting issues. I will say, I said this towards the beginning of the match, but we haven't seen Octavia in a very long time. That is kind of the charm of adventure, especially for us players who have been here for a while, like you and I, Animoy. We have good memories about Octavia back when she was brand new, and she hasn't been very competitive in a long time. So it's pretty good to see something like that and to be able to kind of get that mix of the new and the old that adventure brings.
Now, Prism Light is pointing out something we might have missed. It says that a friend with summoning bell on them needs to be at the problem to make the unicorn.
That would be a big deal.
It's possible that they exhausted and then moved home, but Prism Light's pretty sharp, so
Yeah, so
we'll have to
Summoning
watch out
Bell
for
was
that.
used that whole game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was used correctly a few times and incorrectly a few times.
Tisk tisk.
Yeah, that's a good catch. And being an advantage towards the player who did win, it is meaningful for sure.
It needs to have a noticeable negative impact on the meta, or be so skewed that it pushes entire.
So yeah, that's a good catch, Prism. At this point, unfortunately, definitely too late to do anything about it. But if he does come back to the stream seat, which maybe he will, he's already on a hot streak.
I'll send
We'll keep him
I'll
honest.
send Grandpa's a note just to pass along a word just in case.
Golos was in the game for 2 years too long.
The fact that they banned Golos.
Okay, so we currently
Ignore the
have
Golos ban. The fact
left
they
player
unbanned World Fire, that
supremacy
same
except
list
for
is
my
the best
upset.
thing in existence. The fact that they just said, hey, we're getting rid of Golos because people are playing too many cards, to here's a card that makes people play no cards in the same list.
All right, players, please listen up for your round 2 pairings. Round 2, here we go. Ivory and Arcat, you're on stream. That's gonna be fun.
Okay, so we've already got two sim players, which means we actually know what the matchup is because they've already told us most of what their decks are. So we are seeing a mono farm versus mono farm match here.
Versus Max, table 6, Combo Breaker versus Smithers, table 7, Sonnet versus
However, the unbelievably interesting thing about this is that Aracat is playing Luna Farm, which is not a thing. So if you're sitting there thinking, that's not a thing, you're correct.
Am I seeing a full version of Ivory Starlight on the right side?
We are seeing a lot of adorableness on the right side at the moment.
That is adorable.
Continentals 2021, that looks like a top format. Also
Yes.
very pretty. So, some big swag coming from Ivory. Though honestly, it's not like that's any better than a Chrissy mat all the way back from 2015.
My luck ends here.
And an Araket appears on the left.
There she is in all of the promised glory. That's a Luna, and she is on top of a farm deck. Oh, that looks like Zip, it looks like.
We have plushies. We have plushies.
That's our cat.
Where Aura goes, plushies will follow.
I brought the thing.
Okay, 3 minutes for setup, players.
3 minutes to set up.
Sideboard, do you? Maybe. I mean, you have to.
I mean, the
make that obvious.
sideboarding decisions here should be fairly straightforward, I would think. Most decks have kind of obvious sideboard decisions against farm. And both of these players know that the other one is playing farm.
You were
My
literally.
brain is filled with plush.
I don't understand how you and she's are like. I just wasn't paying attention the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Like,
Because I had more important things to do, like think about plush.
what's your starting problem? Tarnished. Okay.
Very unsurprisingly, we see two tarnished reputations as the starting problems here. You earlier mentioned that tarnished is great for Luna, and I mentioned that it's great for farm. So if we see a Luna farm, probably going to see tarnished reputation.
Why not both?
A 50 card deck.
Aracat is resolutely refusing to sideboard.
You are
even when knowing the opponent's deck.
Yeah, he's seen this deck list. I can't blame him. He may be of the mindset that the sideboard really only needs to be used in the top cut. And in-person Swiss events, you don't have that much time, and, there's kind of a lot of stress. So just saying, hey, I'm going to make a 50-card deck that I know works, that is redundant enough that it doesn't strictly need the sideboard, and I'm going to, lower my stress level a little bit in this con for the Swiss. It's a pretty reasonable decision.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that.
It's, it's obviously not hyper optimizing, and some of the players who are going to want to win at all costs wouldn't typically make a decision like that, but it's a very good decision if that fits your play style.
And so Ambassador Rainbow Dash flips at the beginning of a face-off she's involved
That's
in?
correct. Yes, so she will be very likely flipping turn 2 because you'll play the Troublemaker turn 1 and then just move there at the start of turn 2 for free.
Prism Light says C Poppy has driven Arquette mad.
I think Ara was mad to some degree before then, but it certainly didn't help.
And Grandpaws has let Kevin know about the summoning bell.
All right. Well, that is a good thing. We are the good doobies, making sure that people play this game correctly, which Lord knows it's tough to do.
I mean,
It takes 2 to cheat. 1 to cheat and 1 to not notice it. We kid.
Wall to Twitch TV today.
Beat up Moon Princess.
Remains to be seen whether
So
that's
did
happening
Arquette take a
here on
mulligan
Twitch.
and
Go for it
go
with
again?
Yes. He has redrawn, and in both cases, it looks like his first draw was Winterzilla. That made it to the top of the deck both times. Honestly, Winterzilla is probably fairly good in this matchup. Blue nowadays likes resources quite a bit.
Yes.
Probably Luna won't be playing that many resources, but Ambassador is going to be playing a lot of them.
Flash Magnus Shield.
Krogar's Lair is quite strong.
Staff. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Staff has been great since the beginning.
So Arquette with 2 AT on the left. He got his free move from his problem, and he's probably wondering what he can do this first turn, if anything.
Yeah, so he's not going to be able to flip Luna turn 1, but he's probably doing the math to see, which friend do I want to play next turn after I flip, and is it worth it to have already played a Troublemaker? Which does make a lot of sense, because if that Troublemaker is a villain and is going to do Frighten, it's good to get it face up before you play a friend to flip Luna. Mm-hmm. However, we now are seeing a very strong play from Ivory, because Ivory is just going to try to farm that Troublemaker, because Luna is unlikely to be ready to farm it next turn, unless Luna has a hasty 1 cost, a hasty 1 requirement card, which would be Gallus. Arquette is playing Gallus in this deck, but if Arquette doesn't have Gallus, he's not going to be ready to farm this Troublemaker, and then Ivory's just going to farm it instead, which would be very mean. Now, it is Grogar, and Grogar is, quite strong in that he can just run away and pull a different Troublemaker, and then Ivory would not be able to steal Ara's kill, as it were. But Ara also planned for that in playing his own Troublemaker there.
Now, will Arakat search for the Legion of Doom?
Probably should have gone the other way. Oh well. Stick.
In Farm versus Farm, what happens when one person gets the Legion of Doom out first?
Yeah, Legion of Doom is quite strong. I would say that Farm has some good answers, but doesn't typically pack a lot of answers to
5 on 7.
Troublemakers because it's just planning to be able to beat them up.
Flips a
Ivory
Grogar's Lair versus
did
a
not.
Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, Chrono Trigger's bigger. Now, of course, it's not the biggest problem because Ivory can just bring the Rainbow Dash back next turn,
Okay.
or even this turn using Rainbow Dash's activated ability. But it is a big bummer because Arakat did leave himself open by leaving the Grogar there. So that was kind of Ivory's big chance to steal the Troublemaker. Arakat going with a staff, by the way, which is quite interesting.
Now,
That's-
Arakat, I see that he has a dash and mullet, and would be able
Yeah.
to play that next turn for not much value, but you might
But at
need
least
it
to
to
flip.
get on top of the Troublemaker.
Yeah, so it looks like, yeah, Arakat did not have enough blue yet to enter and actually flip Luna. So with the staff in play, he's going to be able to do it next turn. And because Mullet is hasty, and I guess Gigi is also hasty. Oh, Rutherford's also hasty. Every card in Ara's hand is hasty. He's going to be able to flip Luna before the Troublemaker phase, and he can actually get a farm this next turn, which is pretty solid.
And with the Nightmare Moon at the other problem, you might want to play those cards now instead of discarding them.
Surprising.
Yep, that's a good point. So this is the time to play cards. Now, the issue is that in Blue Farm, and it doesn't matter, even if the Blue Farm is Luna or Ambassador Dash, everything is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So he's probably not going to be able to play that many cards.
No.
Honestly, I have to admit I sort of disagree with Ivory's decision to use Dash to exhausting Dash to move her up to the problem, just because Ivory still does have Tarnished Reputation, and keeping Dash at home gives Ivory the option to go to either problem, depending
That's
on
true.
which would be better. Just, you get to wait and see what Arakat does. That is the smallest of deals. I'm mostly just filling up space by saying that, but it is something to keep in mind, I suppose.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Prism Light in chat points out that there's some other resource removal for blue.
Before the face-off. Yep.
Yeah, but they're all fairly weak,
Face-off with
which is kind of what
9
Cursed follows up mentioning, is that, we've
Yeah, seems about right.
the resource removal options in blue are fairly bad, and the resources are fairly good. Okay, we've got an interesting flip here. So Arakat technically flips a 1, but functionally it's more like a 3. That puts this pretty close. So I think that's a loss for Arakat.
Yeah, the Flash Magnus Shield is pretty good to get out this point.
Oh, right. I didn't even notice. I think that was a loss before the shield. So yeah, that shield is going to be a big deal. And like Cursed and Prism and I were just talking about, it's going to be hard for Arakat to remove that. Now, he does have a Winterzilla, but there are already Troublemakers at both problems. So he's going to have to time it very well to actually get that Winterzilla to even flip.
As Bugle pointed out in Discord the other day, there's no Seabreeze Flower in Adventure.
I don't remember what this card said.
Seabreeze's Flower was such an MVP.
Grogar banish. Okay.
Okay, so Grogar is going away. Oh,
Okay.
Arakat revealed that it was a Winterzilla. He didn't, strictly speaking, need to reveal that. But so
I think
what
that might
he's
have been a
betting
hand
on,
fumble.
yeah,
The chaos,
what he's betting on
rough
is that
is
Ivory is going to beat the Troublemaker, and then Winterzilla will be able to uncover and get rid of the shield. This is actually one of those turns of events that would make Ivory consider farming the Luna.
relevant. I don't know why I'm
Yes.
However, Ivory may be super confident in that card because it's a Pony of Shadows, in which case he's actually planning to farm both.
Yeah.
Do that thing with the stick and the
We had a funny moment in the core tournament yesterday where
sure.
someone might have been Ivory was farmed a Pony of Shadows with a is it Prince Rutherford that just went in the discard on the left side?
The new Prince
Yes.
Rutherford, the 4/4.
And so he was farming it with Prince Rutherford and his main. And so after he won the face-off, he went and looked for his Troublemakers in the top 5 cards. And we kept playing, and no one really noticed that he never did the Pony of Shadows thing. And then,
Oh, wow.
And then we saw that it's a May.
Oh, that hurts. You don't even get to be forced to rewind game state and correct your mistake. You just made the choice by omission. So it was revealed that it was a Glimmer. And if I were Ivory here, I probably honestly would have wanted to farm the Nightmare Moon. But, you know, Nightmare Moon is very strong to keep on the board. Arakat did already have to discard cards, so it's not like getting rid of it now is that big of a loss. But now that Winterzilla is going to be able to flip, which is honestly good for us watching, because that's going to keep this game much more
Yes.
competitive.
Because unless you're willing to let me do something still during the face-off.
tucking the card is the end of the face-off.
Okay.
Otherwise, yes.
That's fine.
Oh, wow. Arakat was actually, I think, thinking through his intense knowledge of the comprehensive rules and figuring out if Ivory had technically ended the face-off already. The answer being yes.
When I bought those sleeves.
So Ivory did not get to do some extra little thing that he wanted to do during the face-off.
That's a card. Oh my god, that's a card. I hope I get to play. I don't get to play it. Terrible. Terrible. Okay.
Oh, I think Ara just drew Thunderlane, I believe, and he's realizing he has to pay 1 to use the
Yeah.
Winterzilla this turn. He can't afford to skip that. So Thunderlane is a next turn card unless Arakat blows through all 3 of his actions, in which case he's not going to have enough actions to play Thunderlane, I don't think. I don't think anyone's at 6 points yet. I may be wrong there, but it looks like we're at 2 and
You,
2?
you know what else? Arakat missed the start of turn trigger for the problem. Or did he move Luna?
No, he would have been able to move Gigi, and he didn't, but it looks like
It doesn't
maybe
matter.
he didn't because he was already planning to move
Yep.
her for something else.
Ooh, there's
This-
chaos on the right.
And then discard, and that is not.
Yes, Gigi is a very strong card all around. She's a new one, and that includes Chaos.
What's your power total? 6, 9, 12, 15?
So it looks like even though Ara's going to score a good 3 points this turn, that's going to take him to 5, unless I'm mistaken. In which case, he's not going to be able to afford Thunderlane next turn either. That's the perpetual burden of the blue farm is you're always just shy of
Yes.
everything you want to do.
I've noticed
His
that.
other friend is also a Rutherford, which is 4. So his next turn is probably going to be a bit tough unless he draws a cheap friend.
Don't want to discard this, but
Now, Gigi lets you, with the Chaos, draw 2 and discard 2. And it sounds like
Yes.
Ivory doesn't want to discard anything.
Yeah. In the worst of cases, that does just mean mill 2 cards off the top of your deck because your hand is already too good.
yeah, sadly it is correct. GG and Grogar's Lair.
Yep, Gigi has value in the discard pile, so that makes sense.
Yeah, Ivory was disappointed there, but discarding the GG is pretty darn strong because that's where GG needs to be in order to score you additional points. That's right, she's not just well costed and hasty, she also scores you points in addition to her chaos effect.
Okay, ready actions, draw, and
The thing is that
it's another middle.
farm decks really don't like to play things that are 3 power. 3 is about as low as farms are willing to flip. So something like Swinging Wonders is so strong that like you're definitely going to include that in a farm deck, even though it flips for 3. GG is also among those pretty rare cards that is good enough to include in a farm, even though it flips for 3.
To your 7, I'll banish GG to get another point.
So there's the banishment of the GG for an extra point. And what was interesting was that was an additional Nightmare Moon out there when the other one was still there, and could have been a uniqueness problem if the other one hadn't been defeated.
Oh wow, that would have been embarrassing. That's a good point. So Ivory, I kind of
Knew what Arakat was going to do.
yeah was betting on that thing being not long for this world by the time he put that card down. So let that be a lesson for you all. Arakat would have won a moral victory if he had done nothing last turn. He would have had a lot fewer points, but it would have been a moral victory.
I don't remember either.
I just don't know where it's going yet. It's obviously one of those.
Ivory looking to play a Troublemaker somewhere.
It's an interesting board at this point because both players still have Tarnished Reputation out, which is not surprising. Farms are not that likely to double quickly. But it does mean that both players are very mobile. They can get around really cheaply.
Does the Rainbow Dash main let you exhaust to move to home?
I am pretty sure she does. You could do that, and ooh, that's spicy, Anemoy. That's a good idea. Let me double check that, because that would actually be a really good tech play.
Move Luna with sure. Okay. Draw a card.
Yep, you are correct. He could be doing that. Now, you probably wouldn't want to do that every turn once you've got a second character out, like the Daybreaker here, just in case something happens that you weren't expecting, and Daybreaker gets sent home. But as just kind of some secret sauce to use every so often, moving Dash home during the main phase to give yourself more options next turn is pretty smart.
And Rutherford frightens.
Ah, it's a promo Rutherford, so I misread which Rutherford it was. Arakat did in fact have a cheap friend, the 2-for-2 Rutherford, which is a staple in Luna decks.
And my Rainbow Dash point may have been moot because Tarnished Reputations are going away to be replaced by Final Question
Another final question.
and Final Question.
I have made a terrible mistake. Probably.
I'm a little confused as to how Luna got to the other problem. Do you remember? Because, I mean,
Draw for turn.
I know that Arakat could have used Rutherford to blitz Luna over, but it doesn't look like he did that. It kind of
Yeah.
looks like he might have used Tarnished Rep, which you can't do if the
Right.
friend isn't at home. Now, it doesn't actually matter because Arakat easily could have done what he wanted to do there, but I am a bit confused. I guess. So both players were kind of blown away by two final questions, which, yes. So final question, we saw it in the last game, but just to make sure everybody's on the same page. The first player to confront that problem, if it is the player who owns the problem, they're going to get 2 points. If it's the player who doesn't own the problem, they're at least preventing their opponent from scoring 2 points when they later confront it. So it's always a race. You always want to confront final question as soon as you see it, because even though it isn't necessarily scoring you 2 points, if it's your opponent's final question, you're preventing the 2 points because it's a race to be there first. Once you've got two of them, it's just like, it's too much. You've got two huge value targets. And probably what's going to happen is that both players would want to confront their own Tarnished Rep. Sorry, final question. However, it looks like Ivory is going for...
The beat up the Grogar.
Yeah, he can farm a Grogar, which is very strong, and that's why Swinging Wonders is worth being included in any farm that's blue. Then he gets to deny Arakat his 2 points. And so now he's in a pretty good situation because he didn't score 2 extra points, but it's not too different than if he did, because he's in this much better board state where if Arakat doesn't confront Ivory's final question this turn, then Ivory's going to just get free points next turn. So he kind of, even though he didn't get extra points, being the first one to confront that problem is still very good.
However, defeating the Grogar makes it possible for Arakat to double confront this turn.
That's true, and that's not usually something a farm would be liable to do, but when that farm is a Luna with a staff, the sky is the limit, man. Oh my lord, it looks like Ara saved enough to afford Thunderlane here.
Thunderlane.
Oh man. So I agree with what Ivory did. I think he made the right call, but Thunderlane might swing this whole darn game. It's really hard to counter that in blue. So Thunderlane is another adventure staple. I say staple because it lives in all our hearts and minds, but it's actually hard to play him very much because he costs 4. However, oh my, I just got interrupted by the fact that 2 more Tarnished Reputations. These guys are playing mirror problems, and they keep coming out at the same time. But I digress. Thunderlane, he costs 4 and 4 blue. It's very challenging. But he comes in at hasty speed, which is really good for Luna, with 5 strength. If you win a face-off with him, he's diligent 2, so that's why he's got 2 extra strength right now. So he's 7. But much more important than that, he can use those power counters to move himself across the board at immediate speed. So because Ivory's problem is a 7, and Thunderlane is at 7 right now, he can't use Thunderlane to confront without doing anything else, because Thunderlane would go down to 6 power in order to get over there. However, he could get 6 power and go over there, and then Arakat could do anything at all, like, play a 1-drop and be confronting that. And then after doing that, the Thunderland can blitz over to the other problem. And I say play a 1-drop, but Arakat has Tarnished Reputation out right now, so he can just move GG to that problem for free at the start of the turn. I may have lost the point there, but to summarize, because Thunderlane is so strong, Arakat, with his current board, could spend 0 actions to double face-off. He would be bringing 8 strength to the double face-off, or more, depending on how he does various decisions. So he's fairly likely to win it. And after doing that double face-off, Thunderlane would get 2 more power counters, and Arakat could do the whole thing again next turn.
Mm-hmm. So there's Staff. Staff, you probably don't want to staff Thunderlane.
Oh, that is so tough. It's actually a similar problem to using Staff of Zacanis on Daybreaker, where you really want the friend to go away, but you can't afford to lose the face-off that you start. Yeah, so it looks like Ivory did not go for it. And I guess he just scored 1 point by confronting.
So it looks like Arakat has 9 points and Ivory has 9 points.
You've got good eyes. But yeah, so
I had to
it's
put
a
my
close
head up
game.
real close to the screen.
But so kind of like I said last time, being at the same score for quick moving decks pretty much means that whoever's turn it is right now has a pretty big advantage because they're kind of in lockstep, 1 step ahead. And at this point, that's also the player who has Thunderlane. So if I'm Arakat, I'm feeling really good and really justified for trying to farm with an aggro main. Honestly, I'm very impressed. I would have thought that Luna would be kind of a little bit of a more versatile choice against other types of decks, and maybe would have less of a problem against maybe Control, just because Luna can do a few different things. Like Luna could play like she's playing aggro. But I would have thought that because Luna is kind of a less pure farming main, that in a pure farm versus farm matchup, Luna would be at a disadvantage. And what Ara is showing right now is that Luna is legit. Luna has some real competence in modern blue farm. And obviously this game is too close to call.
And I'll tell you what helps with that is that Ivory doesn't either have the resource removal for Staff or is choosing not to invest in it.
Yes, and that is sometimes the downside of Winterzilla is it's a turn on delay. So when your opponent is already kind of running away with the game, you don't feel like you have time to do anything. So one thing that I'm predicting is going to happen is Ara is going to see what the outcome of this face-off is and then move Thunderlane up, just because he didn't need Thunderlane at any point, but you might as well move him up because Thunderlane's going to get 2 extra power counters. Because Thunderlane is borked. Yeah, so like Kirst was talking about earlier, like you mentioned, not being able to hit resources is just really tough. It's a big issue, and Staff on Luna has been, definitely proving itself. Like the fact that Arakat was able to single confront Tarnished Reputation with only the Luna and then blitz the Luna later. I mean, it's just huge.
Finally, different problems.
And both quite good. So Ivory is, thanks to his problem, already confronting. And so he's very well set up for like a double face-off, possibly, or to just farm that Troublemaker that he already played there. Oh, it's a Winterzilla.
And there's Winterzilla.
Well, absolutely better late than never. That's gonna help. Now the issue is that Thunderlane at this point can just double both of these problems. So Ivory is going to need to respond to Thunderlane. And he can't use staff to do it because Arakat's problem actually prevents staff from working. So both problems are coming in very strong right now.
And Thunderlane can beat up the Winterzilla for a point.
There are only
Oh, wow, that's rude.
and there's no way that
What do
you
your elf
cannot
eyes see as far as the current score?
I'll draw one.
It looks like 13 on the left side, but that doesn't
Okay.
make sense that there would have been 4 points last turn.
Well, Ara did double, so if it was a 2-point bonus, no, but it wasn't. Was it? So it was 9-9 or 10-10 before?
Maybe it was 10 to 9 before. That would make more sense.
Okay, perfectly plausible. So it looks like with that, I mean, if he's at 12 or 13, or Kirst is saying he might be at 14, Thunderlane is going to be able to do any of those numbers. Yeah.
And there's
Okay.
a concede.
Yep, Ivory knew.
I'm going to go look at Ivory's deck. I wonder if he had Stop Fighting as his Frighten, or
Ooh, that would hurt.
if he invested in Sepakli Attack.
What I needed there.
Yeah, that's that would be good to know.
A lot of
because-
people are not playing Sepakli Attack anymore.
Yeah, it's challenging to afford it, and especially in a blue farm.
Yeah,
Which
I've
always
noticed
has
that too.
problems
Mattered there.
with cost. But yeah, against another farm, Stop Fighting is worthless because no farm worth its salt is going to play 2 drops or less. Now, I guess that's a little bit overzealous because Arakat actually does play a 1-for-1 in order to flip Luna, but it's not a problem if it gets frightened. So that wouldn't help. It's not nearly as impactful to frighten Grandpa Gruff as it is to frighten Thunderlane.
And Ivory's deck does not have
I was
Stop
relying
Fighting
on.
either. So
That was the only out I had at that point.
Oh, it has
was
neither.
if I-
Does it
if a
have any immediate frighten?
question came up,
no, all I can think is the kind of the villains, but
2 plushie
Okay,
dashes
yeah.
in
So
hand,
it's
and a
it's
Daybreak
not an
Blade
unreasonable
already
call
in
to
play.
just say, hey, I'm gonna run really quickly. Blue Farm is really fast and has been given recently a lot of friends that make it win even quicker.
yes.
But in the mirror, having counterplay is pretty good here because every friend is so impactful. So you want to be able to take them away from your opponent.
And Ivory's deck had Thunderlanes as well, but either he didn't draw them or didn't get an opportunity.
Yeah, that makes sense. That doesn't surprise me. Thunderlane. So way back in the day, I think Ivory was one of the first players to use Thunderlane correctly, and it was in basically this exact deck. He was one of the pioneers of Blue Farm, and used Thunderlane all the way back in, goodness, maybe 2016, something like that, a while ago. So it doesn't surprise me that Thunderlane would also fit very well in Ambassador Dash. But it is probably even slightly better in Luna than it is in Dash because Luna works so well with hasty friends.
And you know what can find it, but maybe not a guaranteed play, is the Pony of Shadows Troublemaker.
Oh, yes.
We didn't
so,
see any Pony of Shadows in that match.
Yeah, Pony of Shadows is huge. I wouldn't be surprised if Arakat isn't playing it, or if he is, honestly. Either way would work. For Ivory's deck, every single friend is going to be such a big deal that Pony of Shadows is going to be amazing. For Arakat, Arakat has to have a few less great friends to flip Luna over. And Ivory obviously doesn't have to worry about that because it just flips by farming. So a Pony of Shadows would have been certainly a very good play for Ivory would have been just really nice if he had been so lucky as to get one.
And you are correct. Ara had 2 Pony of Shadows, and Ivory had 3 Pony of Shadows.
Okay, that makes sense. Just a little bit of you can't have everything for everything, and Pony of Shadows being 1 point just isn't as amazing for a Luna as it is for Ambassador. Now, I do suppose it's worth mentioning that even though Sim tells us, oh my goodness, hello Zip. Even though Sim tells us what their decks will be in advance, which is very gracious, they do give themselves the littlest bit of wiggle room. They can change out 5 cards, basically a sideboard worth of cards. So the exact numbers that we're giving, may vary. We might not be quite spot on, but very likely those are the decisions that they stuck with for any single card.
Look how different the new hooves are on the new generation.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I was noticing that the cutie marks are only on one side in the new generation, so I bet if Ara flipped this over, we wouldn't see a cutie mark, which is very disconcerting.
That's funny because usually that was the indication of a toy that was made in a cheaper manner.
Oh wow,
Now they're like, we're just gonna make that
that's the standard now.
canon.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Didn't notice that. Cool.
All right, so we just got time. So these 2 farms did finish just ahead of the time limit being called, but not by too terribly much. Not as screaming fast as the aggro was.
And it's been pretty close games so far.
Yep, true.
We could have a lot
Pretty
of
much
Swiss rounds if there were a lot of players too.
Yeah, we don't yet know how many rounds we're gonna be seeing, but especially now that we're kind of moving into everybody's gotten to play a few games, they usually only put people who have had kind of hot streaks onto stream. We were lucky already that everybody we've seen has already been bringing like really impressive and interesting decks. But that is going to continue because the stream typically only gets the best of the best stuff.
This could be why I've not really been on stream at the tournaments.
Oh, low. That hurts. But you wound me, Animoy, with that one.
I wound myself.
I guess so.
We did stream from downstate Illinois once, and I was on that one.
Okay, interesting. Do you remember what like type of tournament that was? Maybe a regionals?
I think it might have been a regionals. I think Databyte brought his streaming setup, which was
Ah, gotcha.
kind of like a long pole and stand, and worked pretty well.
Nice. I've certainly been on stream my share. Most recently with the very interesting opportunity to commentate my own matches in the Invitational. That was strange. I could give you substantially more information on what the player was thinking.
And then 4 is 8 and 9. And then they're going to do one for the comics.
But those weren't in-person streams. The Invitational is not connected to a convention. That's just something that Meticulous Talks put on.
You could literally make an entire expansion just for
That's a plug. That's a whole big plug. Subscribe to Meticulous Talks.
And we're grateful they do.
It's a very neat event.
and you want a second game.
And Cursed promises more this year in chat.
Yeah, the format of having the players kind of give their own commentary has a a very interesting charm. Like there's more that can be said, and it's very different than kind of other commentary that you can get. So
And you
yeah,
also have to not
it certainly
spoil
got
what's coming.
that is true. There is a little additional performance required on the part of the players.
Oh no, what will I do here?
You get somebody who comes to the stream like totally downtrodden and depressed, and he's like, "Yeah, maybe I'm gonna win. You don't know."
So I wonder who we'll see next. Maybe Smithers. Smithers was playing yellow aggro yesterday in the core tournament.
And I'm just like, if you're gonna play a friend sooner or later, I'm gonna belly flop something.
Aracat promising belly flops to someone in the background, but not sure how he's going to do that in a Bluna deck.
Yeah. Well, I had questions. They just weren't friend-based questions.
I'm going to try to chat with Grandpaws and see how many players there are total. I think that would be interesting to find out.
I won the early game, and I let him have some of the mid games, so I would have chances to win the end game.
Let you know what he says.
All right, players, please listen up for your round three pairings. Round three pairings. Here we go. Arcat and Big Cheese. Double R Forest and Bugle. Sonic and Ivory. Sketchbeam and Godot. Kevin and Smithers. Andrew and Instagram. And Max versus Combo Breaker.
Sounds like Godot made it out there.
So if I counted that correctly, it sounds like we've got 14 players, possibly plus a bye, but seems like 14 even.
Double R is on two. Sketchbeam. Have you been on stream? You have not. Godot. Have you been on stream?
Sounds like we might get Godot on the stream.
You guys are going to be at table 4.
I think the last time I saw Godot play in person was quite a bit ago, but it was a white-pink style deck. I might be misremembering.
That might be the last time I remember playing with him in person was the final BronyCon.
Very cool. Any insight on what he might bring?
He always plays pink. I know that.
Hey again.
Continental finalist, Matt. That is high class right there.
Yep.
Table 4. These guys were table 1. They are the only ones who have swapped everyone else's squares were.
Though that pony movie, Matt, is kind of exceptionally pretty.
I don't think I have that one. I only have the underwater one from the movie.
Yeah. I don't have either of them, sadly. But I do have the Chrysalis Matt on the left.
Nice. I like the underwater mat because it's very dark and it kind of makes it a little easier to see the cards.
Ah, yeah, that is a benefit. I suppose things are probably going to be clearer on Chrysalis' head as well.
Okay, grab another.
Ooh, promos coming in.
Looks like I could recognize what was probably a Pinkie Pie honorary yak promo. I didn't catch what the other one was.
The other one was Ocellus, Ready to Dance.
Ah, good catch.
So it looks like we might have Farm on the right.
The only two farmers I knew about in advance were the two that we just saw. Did you catch who this player was?
Not the right one.
Okay, fair enough.
It
Maybe we'll see a name
it
tag.
might be Andrew. I'm not sure. I remember Andrew's name being mentioned around that time, but I can't remember. Let's see Godot's name tag on the left. And Godot has Bluna.
Very interesting. Well, both of us knew that he played a pink deck, so this could yet be Hot Wings. I know we speculated on what colors Bluna might play. Really, Bluna is very versatile. She's seen play with kind of every color. You can see Bluna white, Bluna pink, Bluna mono, Bluna yellow, not much Bluna purple or Bluna orange, but I'm sure somebody could do it.
All right, let's see his deck. Not seeing any pink yet.
That looks mono to me.
I see some dilemmas.
The fact that we've got Daybreaker, that one did stand out. That's a little interesting. You don't always see it in Luna. So I think there was GG, Daybreaker, and Night Glider, so that's a lot of point acceleration. That's kind of one of the benefits that you get from the mono Luna, is blue has a lot of those, and you really have the room. You can fit them.
I saw a Sapakli attack on the left.
Tired this con? Up? Been tired?
So at the moment, I'm realizing that this is deja vu. We saw these exact mains and problems in the same positions the last game. But I do assure you all, this game is going to look very different. The Luna on the left is honest to goodness aggro. It's going to be running fast. It's not going to be farming Troublemakers. It's going to stay as far away from Troublemakers as it physically can. And honestly, it's very likely to have a lot more trouble. Farm is aggro's natural predator. So just kind of coming into this, knowing that almost every Luna is an aggro Luna, and Arakat is playing an exceptional deck, the player on the right here is at an advantage already, unfortunately.
You're going first.
Now I wonder how Control-y the right player will be able to play.
Yeah, it's that you can play it all sorts of ways. Like we just discussed with Ivory, who didn't play any Frighten, besides the Troublemakers, of course. You can get away with a lot of Frighten in blue. Obviously, blue is the Frighten color, and there are a lot of choices. You've got Sapakli, Stop Fighting. You've got stuff like Deep Trouble. That is definitely Godot, and George.
AKA Sketchbeam. These are two players you used to see more on the Cocos and Heikos, but I don't see them as much anymore.
True. Yeah. So
But they're always there in
definitely,
person.
yeah, excited to actually get to see them both play here. Yeah, I think the last time I played with Sketchbeam may have been in a con. There we go. Luna off to the races. Going first as the Luna is absolutely huge here. just to make sure that you don't have to worry about troublemakers.
Two action tokens.
Sketchbeam sold me one of my pirate dashes, so I was very grateful for that.
Unlikely to see Pirate Dash in this, but you know, maybe.
And then spend the last action token for the Troublemaker.
Oh, there's the
Double
Legion
trouble.
of Doom.
Oh, did you catch it? That hurts. Yes,
I
Legion
don't
is
know what's
huge.
at his problem, but it's Legion of Doom over there.
1 AP. Okay, draw.
Interesting. Godot knows that this is the danger zone, and he's already digging for answers.
Oh, and look at that. Godot's Bluna is autographed.
Oh, wow. Good catch.
It's the Elven Eyes.
So double face off happens. This flips.
Is that Hasty Nightglider there?
Yes, so Godot is doing a double, but this could break everything. If Sketch actually won the face-off here, that would be really, really sad. Uh-oh. It did go to Sketch. So Sketch Beam flipped huge, as farms do a lot. It was a 7 to a 2, and it's just...
Ooh, final question.
Oh, no. So...
However, we got
Godot-
Troublemakers coming.
Right. So Godot did this in order to push Dash back. And so it's going to buy him a little time. And also, Godot, in his deck building, was cognizant of the fact that farm is a big problem. And he has lacking lesson plans in the deck, which is really nice because that means he is going to be able to confront even though there are 2 troublemakers out. However, the fact that Sketchbeam got a point for doing basically nothing and got to flip for free and got 2 actions because the dilemma that Godot got was the one that sets people's actions to 2. I'm blanking on the name. That puts...
Oh, the dilemma?
That puts, yeah.
Yeah, I'll spend 4 actions.
It puts Sketchbeam in a very good position here, very early.
I win a Troublemaker face off involving this card.
All of a sudden, Bluna's looking really good on farm.
So I'll go.
Yeah, so this is kind of the problem is Luna flips a lot of 2s and farm flips a lot of 5s and 6s and 7s. And so the farmer is just able to win every farm he tries for. And if he gets lucky, even win like face off that he has no business winning, like when Luna does a nearly uncontested double face off.
So it looks like some kind of royal rare Nightmare Moon Troublemaker.
Yeah, I feel like
Must be from
Arakat
the
had one of
print
those
of play.
too. Oh, interesting. You know, I have a whole box of that print and play. I just haven't opened it yet because I didn't get to this con. So maybe I have one of those. That would be exciting. So
So the
what
Nightmare
that
Moon is
represents-
defeated.
Yeah, so the Nightmare Moon was defeated, but then a new one was drawn because Rutherford gets to search the top 5 cards for Troublemakers when you win a Troublemaker face-off. So it's kind of, you get all of this extra gas. So Sketchbeam got to kind of dig for a Troublemaker, which is good because he didn't actually have any in his hand. And that's going to keep him kind of topped up and able to get closer to like that 8 points before he has to worry about finding new Troublemakers.
All right, here's your secret tech for the day. You move your Ambassador Dash with the exhaust effect, and then you play Riled Up to ready her.
Ooh, that's pretty good. I mean, Riled Up is actually a pretty reasonable inclusion right now because Orange is pretty good and pretty oppressive. If Sketchbeam had Riled Up in his hand right now, he could have confronted the final question, which would have been a big deal. Now, it turns out it didn't matter because it looks like Godot banked a turn. So Sketchbeam still has the opportunity to confront Final Question next turn. But he's going to need to get to it soon, or sooner or later. Those 2 free points are not something you want to pass up.
So I've got 12 and you've got 9.
I think every flip we've seen so far has been 2 to 7. Like, that's just so sad as the aggro player.
Somewhere Sundial is smiling. Sundial is all
no.
about the flip average.
The consolation is that Godot has probably won the last 2 games because he made it to this stream. The downside is he has a tough matchup and he is not getting luck. This is looking less likely to be a win. Oh no. That's 3 points of point acceleration because the Daybreaker plus Final Question. However, now we see why Godot saved actions. Good job, Godot. That's huge. So I think that must have been Sepactly Attack.
Yeah, it was.
The card that we've been talking about for a while. You don't actually see it too often in Lunas, but Mono Luna has kind of just a little more room because it doesn't have to worry about entry. So it can just pack a few more tricks, and it can be a little more prepared for things like that.
I see Godot has a property damage, but no resources on Sketchbeam's side yet.
Wait, how many action tokens do you have at the start of your turn? I had one. You had 1? Oh, okay, so you got your 4. Okay, cool. Lyric, Heroic. Yep.
Just still does not help. Want to make sure that I think
card
right. This
is a friend.
play means that there is no
We'll also bring Nightblighter up.
Oh, that's a clever inclusion. The Lyra that lets you move if a friend gets revealed.
Yeah, you don't see it much because it's a risk, but in Mono Luna, it's a lot of friends. We don't know exactly how many, but probably at least 30 out of the 45.
I like my events, so I'm always not including it.
Well, here it's doing exactly what we need because it's 2 actions and it's getting a 7 strength. Luna can get 5 pretty easily, but 6 is a bit of a pain.
And
so
the final
getting that
question
6 on
is
final
stolen.
question.
Not the points, but the ability to score the points.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that Godot had the wherewithal to save the trick, prevent Sketchbeam from confronting final questions, and then do it, I mean, that's huge. Mm-hmm. Also, miraculously, the aggro deck just outflipped the farm. For anybody who isn't sure what that card Sketchbeam just played, that's Thunderlane. I think we know my opinions on Thunderlane from last time. The fleeting hope that I was having that Godot's foresight was turning this around. Thunderlane is going to be a barrier to that.
Now I saw Godot has the Nightglider overpowering.
So the issue at this point is, so Godot is always at risk every time he does a double that he might lose the double, just because Sketchbeam flips so much higher. Now Sketchbeam will always be able to put a Thunderlane anywhere that Godot goes. So he can just start single face-offs. Like if Luna confronts a problem, now there's a Thunderlane there and there's a single face-off. And then Sketchbeam's going to win that single face-off. So things become very dangerous unless Godot can frighten it.
Looks like
overpowering
12
is good, but that
points
Rutherford.
on the right side.
Oh, wow. Wow, this game is moving quick. So Godot flipping that Rutherford is kind of devastating, because that Rutherford would have been exactly what we need to frighten the Thunderlane. Honestly, I think I disagree with the call to move Thunderlane to Griffinstone, just because Thunderlane is already the big target. Like, if Thunderlane doesn't get frightened, then George is going to have a double face-off no matter what. it kind of seems right to me to hedge my bets and just move Rutherford up, just in case Thunderlane does get frightened.
I'll play Daybreaker Blast.
On the other hand, maybe he's trying to win the double confront face-off.
Not a bad point. Yeah. So
I will move Scorpius.
Luna's at this point where she can double, but if she does double, she might lose the double anyway because Thunderlane's just so big. And so I think Godot is making the right call here to just kind of stick towards the single, get the 3 points, and build up your board. Oh,
Oh,
I thought Godot hadn't yet spent his actions. He had 4 left. I can't believe it. I can't believe we've seen 4 decks that are playing Thunderlane already. Thunderlane is back, baby.
Bonus. So I'll get the 2 bonus. I will get a point from Daybreaker, and I will also
2
want
bonuses, a Daybreaker, and a wanna bet.
Oh, wow. Wanna bet. Wow. So it looks like Godot didn't win the game just there, which could be. Oh, no.
Wanna bet
It's
score an
probably
extra point?
everything because it looks like Sketchbeam just won the game with that final question. However, that was such a huge comeback play. The fact that Godot was even able to win a double face-off is impressive, but that's because he played 2 gigantic friends. Like it was just so perfect.
One with competitive.
Yeah, so Daybreaker bringing 6 strength to that face-off, 3 with competitive 3, and then Thunderlane bringing 5. And so now Godot is in a perfect position to trivially win the game next turn. However, it looks like Sketchbeam is going to win the game this turn.
Doing
So, I mean, it doesn't
Thunderlane
get much
things.
closer than that.
try to confront that. Yep. Puts me up to 15 then. Good game.
And 3
That
points
was
wins it for
crazy.
Sketchbeam.
So there was only about 1 turn of this game where I thought Godot was going to win. But, like, it was right towards the end. He was right there. He had everything he needed. It's just... Well, 1, we got the final question, but it looks like Sketchbeam was already at 12 points. So even without the final question, he would have won. But Sketchbeam was kind of, because he was the farm, he was in control of that game the whole time, and Godot still almost won it. And I think that is very impressive, that he had this 1 breakout turn that was just massive.
Yeah, what can happen to Godot in a situation like that is there's not enough time to draw cards in your deck.
Yeah, I mean, this was a super quick game. I mean, I don't know exactly how long it was minute-wise, but maybe like 20?
I mean, I bet Godot would have liked to have gotten like multiple dilemmas out and, maybe done 4 confronts on 1 turn with Thunderlane.
Yeah, or, I mean, you noticed that he had a Night Glider in his hand, so if he just had 2 more actions to be able to play a Night Glider, that would have been enough to win him the whole game. It was a brutally fast game where both players were scoring very quickly.
Maybe a Gigi or maybe something that draws 2 cards and discards 2 cards. Like Gigi?
Yeah, I mean, if Godot had had something like another Pactly attack or a Rutherford, and Sketchbeam didn't get final questions, that might have been enough to turn things around.
A lot of the time
but
it's
that
who
is
gets the
asking for a
final
lot.
questions.
Yeah, so we've been seeing a lot of blue today,
Yeah.
and final questions is a big reason for it. Final questions is unreasonably good. Just getting 2 extra points for free when usually a double face-off is going to score you 4 points, going up to 6 points is... Whoa.
Yeah, it's the only deck I have.
Fair enough.
Sounds like Smithers on the left.
Certainly looks like somebody from Sim on the right.
Dressed
I
very
think that's
dapper.
Grandpa's.
And Grandpa's.
Yeah, because that certainly looks like it's going to be Reanimator.
Hi guys.
Yeah.
So Grandpa's is playing.
Yes, I seem to have been mistaken.
I don't know. It was just someone. I think it was just someone walking around the vendor hall handed me one.
Infiltrator. Oh my goodness. That's so amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
Not spelled with an I.
I'm sure we all understand the folks here, but we've kind of got an infamous, oh my god, it's that card. It's literally the card that just showed up on the board, is infiltrating the hive. Supposed to be infiltrating. They put an I in there. We've never stopped making fun of them for 5 years. That is what Smithers' name tag appears to be referencing. He's the infiltrator. And nowadays, we've got, I think, 2 additional cards that say infiltrate on them in the new fan-made sets because we think it's hilarious.
Because memes.
Memes are very valuable stuff.
So, if you're playing Reanimator against Balloona, what do you try to go for your big friends?
It's Luna. Luna is the silver bullet against aggro. Putting extra barrier on any movement is quite unusual. There are very few cards in the game that do that. And that hits Luna. That hits the mayor on the left herself. It prevents that move that blitzes around usually 2 times every turn from being free.
There's also Limestone Pie that can take away abilities.
Limestone Pie is also very strong against Luna, taking away Luna's ability. And Limestone isn't likely to have that many other targets because Luna decks are usually all about the main.
That die rolls around quite a bit.
Yeah, that die is like nearly spherical. I don't know how many sides that has, but it's a lot.
Grandpa's starting with infiltrating so that he can get something into discard.
Yeah, it's a very solid start for Reanimator, and it also gives you some flexibility on entry.
Oh, and he has
Orchard Blossom.
Orchard
Yeah, that's a
Blossom.
good start.
Looks like Smithers will take a mulligan.
Looking at that Orchard Blossom, that's pretty much all you need on Grandpa's side, so no need for them all.
Smithers has some sort of headwear with a unicorn horn on it.
Yeah, it's hard to make out exactly what's going on over there on that head, but something interesting.
Cursed Chords points out that Orchard Blossom always makes an early appearance on stream.
Yeah, I've been kind of astounded. When I first saw Reanimator, and I was like, well, their only good opening is with Orchard Blossom. They're going to be a super inconsistent deck. They get Orchard Blossom every time, guys. All you have to do is cheat, and it's fine. I kid. There are plenty of other ways to break into Reanimator. There are a number of contingency plans for if Orchard Blossom doesn't work out, but Orchard Blossom is by far the best way to do it. Kind of the secret sauce is that if you get Orchard Blossom, it almost doesn't matter what a single other card in your deck is, or sorry, in your opening hand is. So you can usually just take it come what may. It doesn't even matter because Orchard Blossom is going to call you 2 extra cards. You're going to be able to throw away anything that's in your hand. So if you have any good card, you're going to be able to summon it.
Looks like Smithers has an Aloe. Looks like Grandpa's trying to get the Twilight out
That
first.
is impressive. So the reason he went for Twilight was because
The main
it
flip.
had enough colors.
Yes.
Yeah. So what does that mean? I think Grandpa's must have started on white, which I think is a little unusual. And it might have been because of that opening. So that means that with Twilight having 3 colors, which are different than white and blue, he gets everything out, which is huge.
And the Prince Rutherford does the Bluna thing.
Wow, we've already seen 2 Aloes here. Aloe, I don't think was in the last Mono Luna we saw, so definitely some differences. A lot of people bringing their own Luna strategies. I mean, actually, we've seen 3 Mono Lunas, and they've all been different.
It's gonna be funny when someone has what's the starting problem again?
Don't worry about it.
The one where you move, and he won't be able to move because of Aloe.
Oh, Tarnished Reputation.
Tarnished Reputation, thank you.
Yeah, if Tarnished Reputation failed because of Aloe, that would be very disappointing.
So, I need to double check pre-priority processing rules. Hey, Josh, you should know the answer to this.
Is he asking me? I don't know nothing.
+1. What's going on? Ping me.
Oh man, I'm supposed to know things? This is a problem. I'm just supposed to talk.
Drop off before the trigger.
I'm not sure what the question is.
10 minutes, 12 seconds.
Oh, actually,
I am also not sure. I'm looking at the text just to see if I can figure out what the question is.
If Grandpa's doesn't know how a card works, I certainly don't know.
if it drops off first,
Yeah, that's a weird one.
because if it drops off first, you end up retiring the Kluge Town and having Twilight in play with nothing attached.
Correct. Sort of. Which is weird.
Which is weird.
I would like to search this document.
Checking the rules, it sounds like.
So I think what we're saying is that we're going to bounce the card that +1 is on before, like, so we're bouncing the card that has +1.
Maybe it was played on a Frightened Friend, and it's going to the discard pile.
Oh. So it'll just... Oh, I don't know how... I don't know if you can even play resources on Frightened Friends. I'm sure you can, but I don't know how it works.
It's fine. We'll call it safe.
Sounds like the spice attempt will not be attempted.
What we do? Game 3.
Yeah, that's fine. 8.5 minutes remaining, players. 8.5 minutes remaining.
Really? 8.5 minutes?
And Animoy still haven't pinged me yet, so.
Oh, is he hoping that we're actually gonna be helpful? He's in for some disappointment.
Yeah, Cursed also says it was about putting it on a Frightened Friend. Cursed's take on the
Cursed
rules
says it
that
works.
it works.
Cursed, I mean, do you want to do the honors and ping Grandpa's?
I mean,
No reason.
he gave up on
I
it,
would
but
be in.
I'll be happy to send it over.
Flush dash.
Sure, that's fine.
Up, he's not saying it works.
Just that you can play it.
That would have solved everything.
Maybe I'll just stay out of this one then.
Dumb.
Promo Dash and Mullet on the left.
Yeah, very cool. I don't. I haven't seen that one much for sure. We were all distracted by the rules, and we kind of missed Smithers' impressive blitz here. But Swinging Wonders, Ina Luna is basically a do whatever you want type of card.
Because obviously reading the rules is the most fun part of the game.
Oh lord.
All right.
So we've got Mystery at Hope Hollows digging a Staff of Sakanis, which is very nice. We saw in the last game, well, sorry, the game
And-
before last, how good Staff of Sakanis can be on Luna.
And we have Tarnished Reputation with an aloe out there.
Oh, wow. The thing that you were worried about. I had assumed, honestly, when you pointed that out, that Smithers was only running one Tarnished Reputation, because it's just so likely that you'll see an aloe eventually. You'll probably see aloe as soon as you sorry, you'll probably play her as soon as you see her because she's so good. So Tarnished Reputation, that second one, is just hard to see it.
All right. Score base.
Yep.
On the board.
For a T, no move, draw.
And he does not make the move. But this would be fun because we could make Grandpa's admit that aloe is white.
Diego. I have a frightened cat standard on +1 in hand and no other friends. I have a Twilight in my discard pile. My main is flipped with 3 white power. What happens?
You're sad?
Am I?
I'm pretty sure game state. No, because friends can have the thing. Yeah. Friends can have resources attached to them.
No, frightened friends can have power counters put on them.
Why is there a difference?
Because the rules say so.
Why do the rules have to be a difference?
I'm pretty sure.
10.
All right, let's do a quick score check here. So I believe that was Grandpa's first point that he just scored here with Twilight. And then we've
I
got
also don't know with 100% certainty. There are a lot of
5,
possible
maybe,
actions.
on
I
Smithers'
might not
side.
be able to do that because of game state. It might
And I'm
work
confused because it sounds like they're saying there's only a few minutes left in the game, but it doesn't feel right.
weirder, as Smithers pointed out, where
My
players
best guess is that they started the next game,
processing the resource is
and that these two are just kind of a little early. They started earlier than they had to, just because I would bet that both of these players had quick last games as well.
I think that's actually
Yeah,
the case.
yeah, I think that's.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. This is just a fun game.
Yeah.
Playing Animate Dead was a weird card.
I guess maybe if both of these players are undefeated, then they might know that they're going to get matched up with each other. I don't know. A little strange. This could be a friendly. This could be the real deal.
One you have 10. Ooh, I can play property damage and turn off your +1. That sounds helpful.
You sure could.
So having +1 on Twilight is very nice. The issue is that Grandpa's doesn't have any actions right now, and so if something were to happen to Twilight, he can't pay 2 to protect her.
That's
But
the
it
first
looks
singing
like
barrel
for now
I've
that's
seen.
not an issue.
Now, how does +1 work with Twilight? Let me read the Twilight card.
Draw.
So Twilight can replace leaving play, I believe, with just a bounce if you pay 2.
Yeah, I thought it was a bounce.
Exhaust.
So if
Blossom.
+1 were to cause Twilight to be retired, you can turn that into a bounce for 2. However, I don't know what happens if you frighten Twilight.
Oh, Luna hit on the
Because
Orchard Blossom.
ooh, that's what we wanted. So Twilight is quite good, but Luna is just better here. Twilight has some advantages. In particular, making every other character bigger is going to allow Grandpa's to run faster. But Luna is able to actually like apply pressure with those frightens, not the biggest deal. And then much more importantly, tax Dream Warrior consistently, forever. Smithers is only going to be able to counterplay that Luna by using Frighten, because Smithers is playing mono blue. And Grandpa's is probably just going to unfrighten Luna every turn for the rest of the game.
He can't frighten because of Twilight Sparkle.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a great point. So Twilight is kind of the ultimate support card against mono blue because of that frighten protection.
First turn, Bugle tag in.
Bugle tag in? I'm not sure what that means, but it looks like Bugle's playing right now. So I
Going
would
too
guess
fast
that this is
for
a
me.
friendly.
I'm so confused.
So now we've got Bugle versus Smithers, a brand new game. It looks like Bugle wants to mulligan.
Wait, it's not going downhill fast enough already?
Well, I think Bugle took Grandpa's hand and
Right this second.
is realizing that it wasn't a great hand.
Right this second. It'll get
Yeah.
better. No, it's great. There's nothing to target.
There is the thing you want to target in your hand. We're just waiting on those two.
Oh, is that what you're talking? You just okay.
You've got a close
Fair
now.
enough.
What you talking about? It's great.
Well, I'm going to step away for a minute since this is just shenanigans.
If your mono blue deck
This
can
does
somehow
seem to be a lot of
defeat Twilight,
shenanigans.
there's nothing I can do.
So
I only have one
it seems that we may have been bamboozled, dear watchers, and we have been watching a friendly match. And I know that all of you probably like nothing in this world less than friendly things.
Really?
I too am very betrayed right now.
What's our age?
However, I will say that that's pretty good for Smithers because this is not a game that I would want to be on my record if I were Smithers.
That is
Getting
not yet.
Luna and Twilight out this early is just massive for Reanimator.
Original flavor. Rutherford is. I see no reason not to just do this. Well, I see a reason to also do this, I guess. Rainbow, she looked at me funny.
Don't blame her.
Bugle knows how to keep a grudge. Not accepting Rainbow looking at him funny. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Got a friendship counter as well.
Thank you. That might be
And
the
I'm
remainder
back.
of all I have to do this game. Okay.
You failed to witness the most inspired and interesting Reanimator moves two friends in double face-offs that I've ever seen.
Nice.
See, what happened was he moved two friends and then double face-offed.
Fine, I don't need them.
Yeah, you're Luna. Who
Doesn't
cares about
Zomponies
friends
frighten
in play?
upon confront? I don't think it matters, but I think that Rutherford should be frightened. Bugle went out of his way to frighten the Rainbow Dash, but he didn't frighten the Rutherford.
Well, that's not true.
The other
Like,
rainbow.
yes. The other rainbow. And also rainbow.
I'll check the Zomponies.
But Rainbow only cares about the rainbows.
Yes, rainbow only cares about rainbows.
Yep, when you confront this card's problem.
And doesn't care if they're frightened.
Yeah.
Now that would matter for entry if the stick wasn't already out, but the stick is out, so it really is not important.
I'm pretty sure my game plan from here on out is DFO, DFO, DFO.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, there's not really anything that Smithers could do to get out of this situation. An unfrightenable Luna is just death.
It looks like Grandpa's has Mysterious Disappearance, two of them as his resource removal.
No.
Interesting.
And everything is icing, I guess.
Oh, that I know he does rely on that every so often against decks that play a lot of resources.
With the Luna attacks, I can't double confront still.
Surely Luna's immune to the Luna attacks.
Okay, got it. Promos?
I would very much like Luna to be immune from the Luna attacks.
Okay. Proceed well. You can have two of them if you want. Okay, pick two of your choice.
Prism Light suggests that Reanimator could run day shift.
Oh, that would work very well.
Is day
That would
shift
solve all the
legal
problems.
in Adventure?
I think she is actually. I think
I
they
think so, too.
unbanned her, and then nobody has played her since, which is truly a horrible shame because day shift is crazy good.
Well, I unfortunately.
But yeah, we haven't seen any yellow yet today, except in Reanimator, which plays a little of everything.
No.
If I had a 2-cost hasty, I could do it. But I don't.
Aki. Are these? I gotta get some yaks. Yeah, I need the yaks.
Here comes some honorary yak promos.
He conceded. But, we need to move.
Yeah. We knew where it was at.
Yeah, good showing for Reanimator. I was poo-pooing Reanimator after the Cadence ban, but against Luna, you don't need Cadence. All you really need is that Luna.
Back to back.
It's kind of unfortunate for speaking about the fact because Luna is the best counter to Luna, but the 3-color Luna is the best counter to Luna Dream Warrior.
I sideboarded out.
But that game didn't really count.
Mysterious, Misfire, and Double Parachute.
Yep, definitely good for Smithers that it didn't.
Yep, makes sense.
A very solid open for Reanimator.
Because if I do go to rely on a changeling token, getting that stop fighting is just the worst.
That's true. Sign that says, I mean, I'm at soup.
It says I what?
I mean, I'm at soup.
Who just gave us a sign?
Someone walked in with the sign and then walked out.
Did you ask him why he was buying clothes at the CCG store?
They should have.
Why are you buying clothes in the CCG room?
Those are really exciting games, though,
Good game.
Good.
He has a different mindset.
I don't get why they picked OT off either.
It doesn't matter. It's funny.
Like, it has nothing to do with those characters.
I think that kind of makes it funnier. It just leaves you wondering, why? Why this? Out of all possible choices.
Cookie also such a good show.
Fancy box on Grand Pause's side. I'm usually content to just use the old Interplay lunch boxes.
Alright, here we go. Alright, players, please listen up for your round 4 pairings. Round 4 pairings, here we go. On screen, Big G's Bugle. Then at table 2, Sketchbeam and
Sounds like we're gonna get Big Cheese and Bugle at the stream table.
Go and Instagram. At table 5, Sonnet and Andrew. And at table 6, Max and Kevin. Whose name did I not call?
Looks like Big Cheese on the right
Time for you to get revenge.
and Bugle on the left.
Oh, did someone drop?
I remember Bugle saying he wore specific t-shirts for different days of the conventions. Prism Light likes the appearance of Applejack all work, no play.
Or he could just be a big fan of Bugle.
And I believe that's the problem that makes it difficult to ready
I
characters.
forgot my champion mat again.
Bugle did not bring a champion mat.
I guess I forgot.
I'm
both
sure
of
he
my
has more than
champion
one
mats
of
this
them.
time. And both biceps.
Oh, you don't like getting both?
Everyone should know who I am.
Oh, that's understandable.
Wham.
I wonder what Bugle is going to play with Applejack. Maybe farm, maybe control. I see a Legion of Doom in there.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the decks that he played at the Invitational. So a lot of the decks that we've seen throughout today have been kind of similar to decks that were played in that Invitational because it was one of the main adventure format tournaments that we've seen so far. And so that seems to be informing a lot of decisions that everybody is making here. This is work hard, play hard, exhaust, control, farm. So it's not a control deck, but it has very oppressive exhaustion. And then it is not as committed to the control win condition, or sorry, to the farm win condition as all of the blue farms that we've seen today. But it is, if I recall correctly, an honest to goodness farm deck.
For control. It's not all aggro problems.
There's control problem decks in core. Are you telling me?
Not like there used to be.
Oh, sure. I agree that they are all toned down.
It sounds like that's Cheese on the right there, and he is playing. So Cheese
Oh,
being
yeah.
a member of Sim,
We can see what they're playing.
that is true.
Three of them.
It is Twilight with orange. Maybe there's a splash of white, knowing Big Cheese loves him some white. But
Just
it-
golden parachute.
Oh yeah, Golden Parachute is fantastic. Though it's not going to do anything against Applejack.
Were you winning?
Looks like Big Cheese also has the Desperate Times problem,
I looked away.
where
and then I
Troublemaker
looked back,
face-offs
and there
there.
was suddenly three
Cheese would get to flip an additional card.
Yes. I wouldn't be.
Fair.
Actually, no, I'm a bit surprised. Oh no, that is in orange and purple, right?
Yes.
And of course, Applejack Factory Organizer
Unless
is
you're
in
playing
Cheese's
an
deck.
OG Premier Day.
Yes, Factory Organizer.
So,
So, Cheese played a very similar deck in the Invitational, and Cover to Cover was banned from it,
fine. I can give,
and Dr. Hooves was banned from it, and Heatwave was banned from it. But the one broken card that was not banned from it is Factory Jack. So that is still in there, and I'm sure it's still going to be brutal.
Probably.
So
Looks like it also has Starlight Glimmer Guidance Counselor for a little bit of face-off chicken.
They really are.
true, yeah. Definitely a lot of action generation. I think
yeah, I'm gonna have
Cheese also is playing Zipporah, so that's a full suite of 9 cards that are going to generate you actions, in addition to the main, which functionally does something very similar to generating actions.
Now it looks like Big Cheese doesn't have any orange friends to take advantage of the trading traditions,
Say one.
but he will keep.
that's a problem.
Reveal?
Well, the main card that you know that he wants to start on would have been Factory Jack. But since he's got trading traditions and he was able to flip, it seems like, he's pretty much going to be set for color for the rest of the game.
He can probably keep the trading traditions around for a while with the Troublemaker and Sometimes it's good to just get your main flipped when you've played spell for that, in case you mulligan and find yourself with three of the same card.
That always hurts. Bugle knows that this is serious business, and he's going to write down all the cards he sees. That
Yep.
is so for kind of high power tournaments. That's pretty standard because you're very unlikely to remember it all. You're not allowed to bring in notes from outside of the game, but it is totally okay to take notes inside a game just to help you keep track of what's going on.
Yep.
Sometimes, if you're playing against chaos control, you might write down your opponent's flips, things like that.
During your opponent's turn.
Yeah, I totally started writing down my opponent's stuff when they were playing spell for that. Probably thanks in no part to Bugle's play.
Yeah. Oh, these card backs are both black. I mean, I think Bugles are navy blue, but they are very hard to distinguish. So, at this point, there are 3 Troublemakers in play. 2 of them are Bugles, face down, and then 1 of them is Cheeses, face down. And it's about to turn over.
Prism Light points out I've made a mistake earlier when I said that the only white card was Golden Parachute because there is also Mistmane in that deck.
Ah, of course. That does make a lot of sense because the deck is very good at generating value and getting this huge advantage over its opponent, but it's actually challenging to turn that into winning the game by having more points than your opponent. In the distant past, control decks would just have to grind 1 point a turn for like 5 turns while they denied their opponent from doing anything at all. It was very challenging. Now, Mistmane just makes everything so much easier. It made control a lot better, but it also did make losing against control a lot less slow and painful. So, pluses and minuses.
Troublemaker. Sure.
Now the Applejack main gets a little stronger based on how many exhausted things are on the other side.
Yes. And so the fact that Big Cheese would typically want to exhaust his own cards is a great liability in this matchup, especially while Under the Weather is still out. And that is basically Bugle's single biggest advantage in this matchup, is that he wants Cheese to be exhausted, and Cheese was going to exhaust himself anyway.
Okay.
Funny how we didn't see much orange so far, and then boom, lots of orange.
Yeah, then all at once, a lot of orange. Actually, we hadn't seen any purple either. So
Yes.
this is all new to us.
Cover.
So Cheese is building up at his trading traditions. You might think that it looks like he's ready to farm that Troublemaker, but I wouldn't be surprised if that Troublemaker sits around for the next, 5 turns of this game. Cheese has his friends there probably only because Cheese needs to put his friends somewhere on this board, and Zecora would like to be at a problem so that it can generate actions. Cheese against Farm might never confront a single problem this game. And that's fine with him because of Mistmane.
And a card to ready your own character. That's probably the domain only of blue, not so much orange.
Yes, readying your own characters is a very uncommon ability because it's
Combo.
typically not very strong, unless you're using it for some type of combo shenanigans. So, Bugle, one of the foremost experts on how to use Grogar, he had a Grogar in his banish pile and a Grogar face up. Basically, what that allows you to do is at the end of your turn, pay 1 to move Grogar. Considering that Grogar is an epic Troublemaker, that means you can just blow up your opponent's stuff, which is quite good.
I guess I'll challenge. Okay.
Well, I was mistaken. Cheese did end up trying to challenge a Troublemaker because
Things had changed.
he had been hoping to sit on that Triad of Terror for like 10 turns. I also foolishly forgot Bugle could just blow it up. But Bugle, it shouldn't surprise anybody that the farm is going to flip higher than the control. Control typically flips pretty well, but they do have a lot of friends. And so we saw Cheese flip a Mistmane, and that's a 2. So Bugle might not even play a single 2 in his deck. And he was already up in the face-off. So he's probably feeling fairly confident about that Grogar.
Looks like Cheese still has a... Is that a Sepakli Troublemaker? I can't remember.
Yeah, Aramaspi.
Full situation.
Aramaspi, that's what it was.
Aramaspi is pretty good against other control or farm decks because it prevents opposing Troublemakers from uncovering, which allows Cheese to grind at the problem as though he has an epic preventing any other Troublemakers from showing up, but it's not covering his half of the problem.
Yeah, now that the Grogar banishment train is established, it's going to make Troublemakers difficult to keep out there.
I was wrong. Commenting is keeping me honest. Honest Pony is in Bugle's deck, and that is a 2. Honest Pony is a hugely important card to play in a work hard, play hard deck in order to flip.
She locks things down.
Your turn, choosing exhaust a friend, doesn't ready. Yep.
So the main character at 4 power now.
Pay 1 for a Troublemaker.
And that Zecora is unlikely to ready for a long time. And that means that Big Cheese really has no method to farm Troublemakers at that problem. Though I suppose there aren't any, because Bugle decided it was worth it to do that same thing, pay 1 to move Grogar. Like, it's technically slightly more complicated than that, but really, you can just do it every turn. You're exchanging a Grogar in your banished pile for a Grogar on the board, and you can just keep doing it. So Bugle figured it was safer to have that Grogar over at the other problem for one reason or another. Maybe he's actually hoping to blow up trading traditions.
And the presence of the little Twilight Sparkle on Zecora means that Bugle's main is not going to let it ready anytime soon.
Yeah, that's a clever way to make sure that players remember that the card is targeted, because you having an effect that only happens at your opponent's start of turn, very easy to forget. So smart to have a token.
Thankfully, it's not a May, but it still keeps things moving along nicely.
Yeah, considering that, like, it could be a choice. Like, if your opponent starts making decisions and then you're like, oh, I forgot to do this, it can become pretty tricky because you'd need to make sure that the decision you made wasn't biased by the choices you already saw.
Are you up?
I'm up by 1.
Okay. Disable your main and double exhaust your main.
Okay. And
So the main doesn't have the power or the ability anymore.
Yeah, so
Does that mean Zecora can ready?
for the turn. You have 0 action tokens, so you can't read anything.
yeah,
Although the problem makes it expensive to rally more than one thing.
Oh, 30.
it is expensive. However, let me see when the timing is, because Melted Expectations wears off at the end of the
It's
turn.
before you get your AT at the beginning of the
Pretty sure I
turn.
know what they are.
You have to decide and pay before you get your AT.
There's no reason to do that, is there?
Okay, so Bugle has to make the decision at the end of his turn with Applejack. So
Before you gain
um, he he won't be able to target Zecora until next turn. However, like Bugle is pointing out here, and like you said, before the actions are gained, Cheese would have to spend his last action that he banked in order to ready somebody, if he wanted to do that. However, it's like doing something like readying a Starlight Glimmer by paying an action when you know you're just going to exhaust that Starlight Glimmer for an action. There's no reason to do it. It's just adding risk into your life with no reward.
Both players still at 0 points.
Yeah, this is... Every other game we've seen has been pretty fast. This is the opposite. So we've got hard control up against farm control. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what the time is at this point. We've probably only been doing things for a bit under 10 minutes-ish, but we're not going to make it to 15 this game, probably, unless Big Cheese does some missed main snipe towards the end.
These are both my troublemakers? These are both mine. The face down ones are both yours. Mine are blue sleeves, yours are black.
So we know that Bugle's going to try to score the most points by farming Troublemakers. Should Big Cheese continue to control, or just start banking up AT for Mist Main? Or is it too early to say?
He's going to have to control. So, now it is important for Cheese to gain... So it's early enough that Cheese still wants to gain cards that give him action advantage. However, he has very few of those cards. It's literally only Zecora, because his two other action generators require exhaustion, which is not going to cut it until that problem gets replaced, which is maybe never. So Cheese would like to play more Zecoras to start gaining more actions, but that's only one card in his deck. He might not draw any of them. However, he's going to want to prevent every single farm that he can that Bugle tries to make. And that's not going to be that challenging because of Apple Bloom at Home, which is such an amazing card. So
I fell in love with that card when it came out.
yeah, it's very powerful. And actually, Bugle is playing it as well. So we might see the Apple Bloom mirror here. So Big Cheese played an event to stop Bugle from farming the Nightmare Moon, but then he was able to double exhaust the Applejack. So it prevents Bugle from being able to farm the Nightmare Moon the next turn, too. And that gives Big Cheese 2 turns to find another event. And because that deal is so good, you just need 1 event every 2 turns, Big Cheese is probably going to try to do that every pair of turns for the rest of the game, because there's no reason to ever get lazy on that. It's such a good deal. You just want to keep it up.
Yep. It's making my notes awkward.
So who controls the Nightmare Moon? I can't tell which player has 4 cards.
I believe that...
I think Bugle's the turn player and doesn't have to resolve hand limit yet.
So the Grogar is Bugle's. So I'm going to guess that since they're facing opposite ways, the Nightmare Moon is Big Cheese's. But, yeah, I guess I don't remember when that Nightmare Moon flipped.
I know why it's confusing. Both players have black sleeves.
Right. Yeah, that's such an issue here.
We'll go for it. Sure. 9 versus 6.
So it did kind of look like Big Cheese discarded 2 cards for end of turn to go down to 4.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that that's Bugle's.
Okay.
Different players like to face the Troublemakers differently.
That's not 100% true, but, whatever.
Yeah, but I'm pretty confident that that's Bugle's Grogar.
Double exhaust.
Yes.
I think Bugle's just messing with us by the next Troublemaker he's going to play is going to be parallel to us.
7 to 9.
It's just going to be in the other direction entirely. The next two Troublemakers he's going to balance as a tent, so we won't even be able to see them.
You're down to 2 cards in hand?
Yep.
Which is definitely that. I suppose. Okay, well, I know what the 2 cards are. Which definitely means those are those.
Bugle just said he knows what 2 cards are remaining in Big Cheese's hand, so that's score 1 for writing down your opponent's cards.
Is that you'll have Grogar, and we'll start having nonsense Grogar wars.
Which must mean that Big Cheese is discarding what he draws.
Okay, I think what needs to happen here is we need to pay 1 for barrel.
Okay.
I'm currently up by 1.
That's fine.
Bugle only flipped a 3, but that was enough, so that's pretty great. That's why you want big cards, or that's why you don't want to have any small cards in your deck, because Bugle is betting, I need to get at least a 3 here, and almost every card in his deck is at least a 3, so it's a pretty safe bet.
And Nightmare Moon is defeated, and some power counters for Princess Big Mac.
Yeah, power counters on Princess Big Mac is very nice because you get additional flips, which is huge. Also, this kind of came up in Ivory and Arikat's game. The Nightmare Moon already forced Big Cheese to discard, so getting rid of it now, there's almost no downside. It's already done everything it's going to need to do. So this is a really good cadence. You play Nightmare Moon, it sticks around for 1 turn, and then you score the points off of it.
Looks like Big Cheese is going to try to get a Grogar train going of his own as well.
For a Troublemaker.
2 cards in his hand, 2 Grogars.
For some reason, I can't confront this turn. So I'll pass the turn.
Yeah, it is kind of hilarious that Bugle won that face-off, even though all of his friends were exhausted. So I was saying that Big Cheese was going to prevent Bugle from confronting basically every time for the rest of the game. And Big Cheese did everything I expected him to do. He had all of the exhaust cards that he needed. However, Bugle was apparently prepared for that, and barrel through, does not really require friends. You don't need power. You don't need to put it on a ready character. You're just flipping more cards. And Bugle won a face-off against a 6-strength Troublemaker with no characters contributing. And that's the power of Orange Farm. That's the type of thing that a Blue Farm really struggles to do. Oh, we're seeing Catajack in Bugle's hand right now. So that's not a big deal right now because Bugle honestly has a pretty strong board position. But if things start to fall apart, and especially if Big Cheese manages to get rid of Under the Weather and actually plays some action generators, then having the Catajack already in hand, ready to go, is going to be just amazing. Bugle really has some solid insurance that this game is not going to run away from him.
And you know what else it does? It will put one of those Grogars in discard pile instead of banish pile.
It's true. That's not bad. Big Cheese did nothing.
That's what I thought.
Okay, Big Cheese did a little bit of something.
Half ready? Sure. Draw card for turn?
Yeah, Zecora is, behind Apple Bloom, who is definitely the MVP right now, Zecora is the next best card in Big Cheese's deck. So Big Cheese wants to be using that Zecora consistently.
Now, should Zecora have been frightened? Or maybe he rallied the Zecora.
Yeah, so Cheese did nothing that turn, but then he decided to do one thing, which was rally Zecora.
Got it.
I'm honestly a little bit surprised that Bugle is doing the Catajack this early, but getting rid of the Grogar is pretty big. Paying
It has
5 to get
value.
rid of
Yeah.
yeah, paying 5 to get rid of one Troublemaker was pretty bad, but then Big Cheese rallied the Zecora, and paying 5 to get rid of one Troublemaker plus Zecora, that's okay.
Pretty good. That's it in play.
Big Cheese was able to replace the Zecora, which, might seem disappointing for Bugle, but if we think about what this situation would have looked like if Cheese had 2 Zecoras out, that would have been a problem.
As long as the notes make sense to you, I just think it's fine.
Yeah, I wonder. Big Cheese kept the Apple Bloom. I wonder if it would have been better to keep the Apple Bloom or the Zecora after the Catajack.
Yeah, 5 cards?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I mean,
I guess it depends on what's in your
might de-
hand.
Exactly. If Cheese has an orange event, it's pretty important for allowing you to stabilize. Also, the Zecora is at a problem. If you lose that Apple Bloom, then Bugle is fairly likely to be able to farm, and then a new Troublemaker is going to come up and frighten the Zecora, and everything is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
So the Apple Bloom is kind of that first line of defense, and the Zecora is only especially useful while that defense is holding. So I think it makes sense to keep the Apple Bloom.
In chat, Prism Light thinks that the Catajack will beat up on Grogar next turn. But did the Grogar just get banished?
Yeah, I think so. So it is interesting that Big Cheese. Oh, no, it does make sense. So Big Cheese chose to keep the Grogar where the Applejack was, because if he didn't do that, then Bugle would have scored a point, because Applejack's just big enough. However, that's an immediate liability, because, yeah, as Prism says, that's easy for Bugle to farm. The Captain Jack is enough on her own, but then the work hard, play hard would ready. So Cheese obviously saw that coming and decided it was worth it because, he can just move the Grogar by getting rid of something else. By getting rid of it and pulling something else, putting it at the other problem. But still, honestly, if I were Bugle, I'd be pretty happy about how that turned out. Just because, Cheese doesn't have that many great Troublemakers in the deck. He probably pulled a Triad of Terror. But as far as epics, and Bugle is only concerned about epics, because if it's not epic, he can just get rid of it. As far as epics, it's only Grogar and Triad of Terror. The Sirens that are in Big Cheese's deck are not very useful in this matchup. So causing that Grogar to have to cycle just a little bit earlier and causing Big Cheese to just kind of have fewer Troublemakers in his deck could be useful if this drags on.
I've also got an update. It looks like Bugle's cards are actually sleeves are actually a very dark blue instead of black.
Yeah, seeing them right next to each other, it's possible to notice, but it still doesn't help for trying to figure out what the board state is.
Ready? I suppose it should have happened first. Uncover. Uncover.
Yeah, actually, I didn't think about that. So I was thinking that Bugle was already pretty happy to force Cheese to use the Grogar, but because of the timing, Grogar's replacement is face down, and Bugle already had Troublemakers waiting in the wings. So by using that Catajack in one fell swoop, Bugle turned Cheese owning 2 Troublemakers into Bugle owning 2 Troublemakers, which is massive. Once again, the Troublemakers are facing opposite directions.
Only one gets double.
Only one gets double.
Okay. Double exhaust her, exhaust and disable.
Melted expectations and apple bloom make everything exhausted.
Yeah, it just really, really destroys things. So, I mean, we're seeing that Cheese had at least one trick, which is why he kept that apple bloom, and it's going to buy him a lot of time. Maybe, if he's lucky, it'll even be enough time to farm the Grogar. Sorry, the Triad of Terror. But I wouldn't bet on it. That seems very challenging.
Go ahead. Half ready.
Bugle's masterful play with the Catajack is actually really important here because all Bugle really needs to do is defend the Troublemakers, and the fact that Cheese has Grogars isn't going to matter because Cheese's Grogars only do anything if he has a Troublemaker in play. And if Bugle's Troublemakers never go away, then that Grogar is never going to be able to do anything. As soon as one of these two Troublemakers goes away, Bugle has to start worrying about Cheese has a Grogar. Cheese can use the Grogar to start messing up his Troublemakers and all of that stuff. But right now, Bugle just has everything on lock, which is very solid. So even though Bugle wasn't able to farm the Triad of Terror, it's not really a problem. He's going to be pretty happy to sit with that Triad of Terror as long as it takes.
Now here's some interesting spice. What if the Chrono Trigger banishes a
A Mist Main? That would be devastating. I don't know if Cheese is playing 2 or 3 Mist Mains. 2 is fairly common.
He said 2 at first. That could have changed between the commentary stream and today.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it really does depend on what decks you plan to be up against. I always play 3 Mist Mains because I am paranoid. But 2
Same.
does keep your deck leaner.
I know Hithrock prefers 2 over 3.
I once had a game in the Invitational where my opponent's only chance of winning was to start face-offs and then use I can't remember the name of the card, but the white card that banishes flips in order to try and find my Mistmane while it was still in my deck and banish it. And so the fact that I was playing 3 was a big, important part of that game.
I don't remember what the card is called, but it has rarity after being in the sauna too long.
Yeah, and her like hoof is all soggy, maybe.
The phrase "melted expectations" pops in my head, but I know it's not that.
So yeah, the
Prism
the
Light
Triad
says
of
it's a
Terror-
wrinkle in time.
Wrinkle in Time. Yes, perfect. So yeah, I mean, obviously that's not in play against these decks here, but Wrinkle in Time is a deck or is a card that people do play. It's fairly good against a farm deck, and it is a way to banish Mistmains. So nothing to sneeze at.
No, he wants to show it because this deck actually runs extremely fast.
Honestly, that's kind of brutal. You do like a nap cakes and then a Wrinkle in Time to hit a Mistmane. Obviously, it would be better if you could just banish something from the board, and then you wouldn't have to do such silly things. But it would work.
I saw Big Cheese play one, but I wonder if that was mostly to draw a card. And we have a board wipe. The board wipe does not hit face-down Troublemakers.
That is pretty good. And so Bugle was in such a commanding position with the 2 Troublemakers that I think that's correct, because now Big Cheese gets to be back on top with the Troublemakers, because he had 2 face-down ready, and Bugle doesn't. If Bugle did have face-down Troublemakers, his would be able to flip first, but Bugle didn't have any down. So this is going to lean towards Cheese again. And Cheese is going to be in control of the Troublemakers, which means that he's going to be able to use Grogar if things turn south, and he can blitz Troublemakers around to, like, for example, prevent Bugle from getting a farm. So it's pretty solid to have the Troublemaker advantage. Unless, of course, one of these two troublemakers is Sirens, in which case,
Yeah.
that's a bummer. That's not nearly as good.
It
He can
looks
still get around that by, like, replacing the Siren with Grogar, for example.
Yeah, he has stuff in hand.
it looks like both players have 2 points right now, if I'm reading it correctly.
I have to guess what these troublemakers are.
One Mistmane plus one Confront, and then a Nightmare Moon challenge. That might be it, yeah.
I think the thing to do here is 3 for. I think I prefer going over here. 3 for Big Mac. 3 for Applejack. Confront.
Okay. Bugle is going for a Confront, which makes sense when points are this low. Just getting them where you can. If it takes a whole turn to get 1 point, probably worth it. And Bugle is betting on the possibility of farming that card of cheeses, which would be huge. Now, we have no idea what it is, but if it's not a villain, then Bugle's looking really good.
Okay.
And it isn't. Bugle was correct. He has 1 turn. Cheese's next turn, Cheese will be able to frighten that Big Mac. But for now, the Big Mac is safe. Currently, it's a tie fight as well, so that's favorable for Bugle. He has a real chance to farm that Triad of Terror. And if he does, that's it. There's no coming back. Not in Swiss, not with 35 minutes.
We're currently tied.
Oh, gosh. Oh, no. I mean, this is just exactly where it was before. We went from being tied to tied, which is still better for Bugle. And we saw the 2. Oh, man. We finally flipped Bugle's 1-2. It caught up to him.
Now, if Bugle can exhaust something, that'll give 1 more power to Applejack main.
We're going to do it.
It looks like you're predicting the future there. Because, I mean, this is huge. He really... Like, it's not that Bugle needs this. It's just that if Bugle gets this, he, like, wins everything. Oh, wow. A mirrored volley of bailouts.
Power play. I'll flip a card.
Did
Oh,
he
wow.
discard something for the bailout?
I believe he did,
I flipped
Um,
I flipped power play.
but I'm not sure.
Okay. I think I'm still
Whoa, 2 bailouts.
Well, he discarded something that time, so it's probably legit.
I think he has no cards in hand left. He's making the universal "I have no cards in hand" gesture.
It was worth the risk.
I mean, you made me spend 2 bailouts.
Yeah. Okay.
It looks like Bugle's a bit disappointed there, but I mean, honestly, that's not a huge loss. Like, the Triad of Terror is going to be able to build up counters, and that is a problem. But given a few turns, Bugle's going to be able to amass a really big counter and, like, be able to play, you know, a Catajack and just wipe the board and start over. Or if that doesn't seem like the right plan, you know, he could really take another attempt to farm that Triad of Terror. 3 counters, 3 fear counters on his main is not going to be a barrier to an orange farm.
You have 3 cards in hand now?
Oh, and Big Cheese did not pay to ready his main.
Draw card.
Oh, wow, yep.
Okay.
I think this might be the first time that the starting problem has been, like, really impactful. Well, I guess that's not true. There was a glimmer out for a little while, and that was... Then the starting problem was huge, but... I guess I just forgot that it was even there.
You paid the 1 to ready her?
Oh, I do have to pay 1 already. Oh, no.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Oh gosh,
Couldn't
with
see what they
Twilight
banished.
not being able to ready, this Chrono Trigger might go off. I mean, Cheese could prevent it if he wants because it's Cheese's Chrono Trigger and he has a Grogar. But if Cheese wants it to go off, it could probably go off.
Draw game Okay.
I guess it depends if there's a mist main that got banished.
then it's like, oh, protect this at all costs.
Game 3.
Looking through Bugle's hand there, he has 2 Captain Jacks, which honestly is a little unfortunate in a hand of like 4 cards, but it is good to know that he can turn this around as soon as Big Cheese overcommits. He can strike down hard.
I mean, you say that 2 Catajacks isn't great in your hand, but they're shiny, so.
So that's an advantage. Bugle decided to just take the Hail Mary and see if he could win the face-off 6 down. Or I guess only 5 down. Pretty reasonable, especially if you're predicting a board wipe in your near future.
So if you're Big Cheese, which Troublemaker do you want to preserve more if another Catajack comes out?
I think I'm more likely to win.
It would be the Triad. In general, like, I haven't seen what cards have been banished, but in general, the farm is going to have better cards that get banished under Chrono Trigger. So probably Cheese wouldn't want it to actually fire. And the Triad of Terror is just going to get better and better as time goes on.
Yeah, and you have to play if there were mismains, you have to play them. It doesn't matter if they enter play.
That's the toned down version. It used to win you the game. Why not make love?
Too bad we can't see the banished piles, unless we can see
see some of Bugles. Yeah. And they aren't very good. Bugle would like to see some big friends in that banished pile.
Fine. Okay. Now let's see if we can tie.
Interesting. So Big Cheese paid to rally and then took a fight a lot down. He's probably planning something because the kind of obvious outcome occurred, which is that he lost.
So Bugle up by 1 at this point.
Yeah, so if I were Bugle, I'd be pretty unhappy with this situation because if we just sit around for like 3 turns and nothing happens, that gives Big Cheese a big opportunity to just mismain to win right when time is about to be called.
You get to try again?
That would have been a really nice card to have.
It does depend on how much time is left in the match, which I'm not totally sure.
I think I only see 1 missed main in Cheese's hand.
Yeah, so Cheese is definitely digging for something here. It could be that he's digging for exhaustion events, but fairly likely that that's what he's looking for, is another missed main.
Yep, that's fine.
He drew a Factory Jack, but that's not much use with opposing main.
Yeah, like, I might...
Oh, there it is.
Well, what's he doing?
I think he conceded.
Folded? Wow, I think Big Cheese just didn't think he had it in him anymore. I'm honestly surprised.
Well, maybe they called soft time and
Yeah, would have had left. And
he didn't know where the missed main was.
I was assuming
That's
if you
fair.
walked out.
Yeah, if it was a time limit
Yeah,
thing.
Cursed says we're in soft time. So Bugle ekes it out by 1 point.
Worse than it has historically gone. You went first, correct?
yeah. I think I know what I need to do. So you need to get in a situation where your opponent can't mess with their Grogars, and you have a Legion of Duma.
Do you want, or are you...
The first time I did a tournament and I was filling out these paper forms, I thought if the other player conceded, that you mark them as, like, withdrew.
Troublemaker's down.
Oh, that's interesting, but yeah.
Not the same thing.
that would cause a bit of
No,
confusion.
because I can still win with lots of flipping.
Whoever judged that year, I apologize.
But it is like a soft lock, yes.
Yeah. Eventually, it would become a hard lock.
Because I've done this matchup. I challenged with 3 counters on, what's it called? Legion. And all I had was a 4-power Applejack, and I still won.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bugle, I think he was a little bit confident coming into this game. It seems like he's done practice matches with this particular matchup. And yeah, he wasn't quite as intimidated by Triad of Terror as the rest of us mortals usually are, just because Orange Farm is so good at beating Troublemakers that if your only plan is to have a Triad of Terror, which has functionally like 10 strength because it's got a few counters on it, like, that's no guarantee. Bugle can just punch through that thing, especially with power play. And Bugle does play a couple of dragons. So Bugle
yeah.
could get, a 2-flip power play. And that's enough to beat the Triad of Terror with no characters at it.
Strangles AP gems. Well, but because you have exhaust also in the deck, like it. Well, yeah. It just completely.
I haven't seen all the decks from Core yesterday, and obviously I haven't seen all the decks from today, but I was kind of thinking Wrath of Grogar would make an appearance somewhere along the way, and I haven't seen it yet.
The best card that nobody is
That's
playing.
true. Yeah, really not a lot of pink has been played. Wrath of Gilda is like, it's very strong, and it was good in core, but
Yes, that's what I thought.
I guess nobody thought that pink-blue control could be made to work in Adventure, which is reasonable. That's a challenge for sure.
And School Shutdown has been really good.
Yeah, we've seen School Shutdown and Catajack. So still plenty of board wipes. And also those 2 board wipes both hit resources, which has been somewhat relevant. We've seen some resources in this tournament, especially among the farm. Ah, those names are so small. We got some chibi ponies on the left.
That's,
on the
that's
shirt.
Max on the right. That might be Andrew on the left, I'm not sure.
Ah, Grogar. And Octavia. This is a second Octavia in this tournament.
Octavia
Very
getting
interesting.
some love today.
You've got a kind of standard, looking mat on the right, except with this really beautiful golden artwork.
He said who did the artwork yesterday in the stream, but I couldn't hear. Maybe one of the comic artists, or maybe someone from the show. Looks like orange-white on the left.
So when my opponent flips a Troublemaker, I can say, okay, I'll move my 1,000 Owls there. And that's
Maybe a little bit of Reanimator.
so like I will always have answers. Like I can on your turn you flip Troublemaker. There's no way to stop it. And
Grogar Trading Traditions is quite interesting. I mean, the fact that you are immediately at 3 and 2 colors is quite good. However, you don't usually see that in Adventure because there are enough mains that are easy to flip and also have some effect that, you might have to wait 1 or 2 turns to flip, but it usually won't cost you that many actions, just a little bit of time, like something like Luna or Spell for that, where you're still going to flip fairly early. You see Grogar a lot more in core, so I'm pretty interested in what we are actually seeing this Grogar looking for. I mean, especially because he is usually in core, you don't see him with Trading Traditions. So, very interested to see what this color that he chooses is, and to see why Grogar is the right choice here.
Could we get it would probably be a turn 2 Orchard Blossom.
Quite even on the carpet.
That would be very strong, yeah. That is a lot faster than the standard Reanimator can do it.
I'm not sure the deck was full Reanimator, just maybe had some Reanimator abilities.
Well, Reanimator is typically like kind of the standard knowledge is that Reanimator is pretty good against aggro, but that assumes that it's aggro that likes to use movement because Luna Midnight is very good. Octavia is a totally different breed of aggro that is much harder to slow down.
Grim Henline for entry.
Yeah, I'll keep. Alright, ready when you are.
Okay.
Oh, it's not Andrew. It's Jeffrey W.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, he likes to play Grogar main.
I like to play Grogar main. Grogar main's great. Well, you are right about the white, so an early Orchard Blossom is definitely, you know, on the table, though I don't see one in there.
Let's see.
Orange White can do a lot of good stuff these days.
Yeah, pretty solid color combination.
2 action tokens.
Lacking lesson plans is a little bit unusual from the Octavia. Now, it's totally reasonable, and that's one of the side benefits of Grogar is you have no idea what your opponent is doing when your opponent plays Grogar. Like it could be anything. Um, and so the Octavia, might have other starting problems, but just playing it safe and being prepared for just in case there are troublemakers, playing the lacking lesson plans and making sure that you don't just get stopped dead in your tracks before you flip.
Yeah, this is where you need the old classic cards like Flim and Flam for extra power and
Draw.
get
Yeah, Flim
three
and Flam
power
early would be pretty neat.
just
I
to
suppose
get yourself boosted. I mean,
if it's a two-color deck, you could use the new 3-entry cycle. But the last Octavia we saw was not two-color, so we'll see.
Main phase. Spend 2.
The multicolor Pony Joe, you don't see that one very often.
is that a new one or is that an old one?
I think it's rather old. I think
And then 2.
problems can't be replaced unless they are solved. Some
Because
crazy nonsense like that.
the new Donut Joe is really good.
Yeah, but he's in different colors.
Single problem face off.
Oh, orange blue maybe.
And Octavia.
Yeah, the new Donut Joe is orange blue.
I have 11 power.
I also have 11.
In fact, Donut Joe was originally Joe most of the time and has just recently become Donut Joe.
By 4.
You take it.
TT1.
And that's the Joe is just like you described, the with the problem and
But he
sticky
also
glaze.
sticks around. That's pretty good. I mean, that's a 1 for 2 that you can play turn 1, and it's just never going to leave. I mean, that's huge value for sure.
Sorry?
It's your turn.
Yeah, okay. 3 action tokens. Draw.
Looks like Jeffrey has the problem where the more colors there are, the easier it is to confront. Maybe a good meta call when there's a lot of mono decks.
Yeah. There definitely have been, and this Octavia certainly might be. The Octavia, by the way, was able to flip much more cheaply than we had been discussing and gain even more power. Um, that rarity is very good with Octavia. Let Down Hard is obviously good if you are mildly reanimatory because you can just get anything immediately and put it back into play.
I'll put it into your discard pile. And it's free.
Yep. So
It's
if
free real estate.
it's free real estate. So if he's got an Orchard Blossom, then like you can just immediately get any card from your deck into play that you want. Luna makes a lot of sense. It's going to do a lot less than when we saw Luna against Luna Dream Warrior. It's still going to be nice, especially to like frighten Octavia's stuff every so often, but especially if this is a Octavia mono, Luna's really going to do a lot less than you'd like.
3 for redeeming qualities. Put Luna into play here.
Do you have the white rack for that?
Yeah, he doesn't have
Doesn't matter.
the white rack.
Oh wait. For this.
Yeah, Trading Traditions is gone. That's a shame.
I screwed that up.
That's all right. Honestly, it's not that big of a rush to get Luna into play because she's not that great here.
I see everything is icing.
Everything is icing. Honestly, is also probably going to be fairly underwhelming in this matchup because you
'Cause
don't
you're
see
going
any
through
troublemakers,
friends.
and then you don't have many resources to hit. Like maybe Saddle Row, you'll hit, but another truism about everything is icing is if you're targeting a card that isn't a big deal if it gets bounced, then everything is icing. It's very likely to not do anything impactful. And Saddle Row Review only costs 1 to replay it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So does Max have 2 Mist Mains in hand right now? Kind of looks like it.
I knew he had one. I didn't notice in the other one he might have drawn it recently. A little change lane, just like before. In the earlier Octavia match.
3 action tokens.
Yeah, a little bit of Changeling synergy definitely makes sense because just like the rarity, it's doing exactly what Octavia likes to do. I mean, I guess there's a point where the amount of strength you're throwing around is just excessive, but that's often very useful to have just a bajillion strength, like to
So there's
be the Troublemaker.
There's Prim Hemline, and now he has the wreck for redeeming qualities.
Yep. Interestingly, I think we might have obliquely mentioned this in the last Octavia game, but Octavia does trigger on any characters entering play at a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we see a 2 die on Octavia right now. That's because Max used Prim Hemline to buff Octavia.
Mm-hmm.
And exhaust the frightened thorax.
That is a pretty good frighten coming from the Luna, because Max would have been able to confront that problem, and now he's 1 shy. So that's, using that frighten, and it is a free frighten every turn, using it to actually deny a little bit of value from Octavia is going to be better than you usually get. So far so good with the Luna.
Luna has the movement tags, right?
Yes.
I'm very familiar with her.
I wonder if Max has something like It's gonna work
Oh, yeah, that's
in
a
this deck.
very strong card. Now, it's better in control because one of its modes is Troublemakers, but I wouldn't be surprised because it's a very strong banish effect.
Yep, there's two Mistmains, two Royal Rares.
Yeah, that's what was throwing me off. It's just kind of hard to figure out what it is when it's so fancy that I've never seen one in person.
I have one Royal Rare and two Ultra Rares, I think.
I think I might only have one, which is kind of funny considering I'm the inventor of the, hey, I'm going to make 45 actions and play Mistmain 15 times.
3 action tokens.
Max still able to confront every turn.
Yeah, so right now it looks like the score is 2-4. So the 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 control setup with the Reanimator, it's still tightening the screws. So we aren't in the full control setup, and things are only going to get worse for Octavia. But for now, things are going well.
I'm not sure which cadence is on Max's side. I think it's an older super rare, maybe?
Oh, and this ready's
Yeah, it hasn't seen play
getting late.
maybe ever, so I don't remember what it does. I think it's a 1-for-2?
Yeah, you're right, it's Spa Day. While there are no opposing characters here, this card has Showy 2.
Interesting.
And Prism Light recognized it immediately.
Main phase kicks off
Impressive.
to frighten cadence.
Cursed says that cadence is old school Octavia.
Yeah, I suppose that does make sense. Back when, really you just want 1-for-2s. You want as many 1-for-2s as you can get your grubby little hands on. So you would always play the Rainbow-fied rarity. And then if you're in a second color, which Octavia often wasn't, you would play whatever the Rainbow-fied is in the other color you're playing as well. Because 1-for-2s are just so good in Octavia. Nowadays, we've got these 2-for-2s that also have additional buff effects. And that is, we saw that in the last Octavia as well, because, things are a little more expensive, but you're getting a lot more value per card. But both strategies are very viable. And it seems like Max is kind of splitting the difference and having a little bit of both.
Jeffrey plays our old friend F Stop.
Oh, wow, F-stop. So some hoops to jump through, but event recycling, or maybe anything recycling, actually. It just has to be the same power as F-stop? Something along those lines. Let me check.
I think it has 4 orange and 4 white rack on it, which he can easily meet now.
When this card enters play, give another character +2 until the end of the turn. When this card enters play, if you have another changeling character, this card gets +2 until the end of the turn.
And did you count Octavia's yet?
And F Stop has to do with the power of the card in discard compared to the number of power counters on the
Right.
F Stop.
So right now, he can recycle small stuff, and then later he can recycle big stuff like events. So right now, there are almost no events that he would be able to recycle, but he could recycle, like, Pony Joe, if that were to get dismissed. But not really going to see any dismissal from Octavia.
Princess Mask on Max's side.
Yeah, Princess
for
Mask
for
is
the double
big.
confront.
So this deck actually seems to have a little more Changeling synergy than we saw in the last deck. Though that could just be, these are all very quick games, and so the only cards that you're seeing are the ones that happen to be in the top 20 cards of the deck. But Princess Mask is very strong if you're playing enough Changelings.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about it's going to work earlier, and there's a Petite Sneeze, which
Gosh, Petite Sneeze
is pricey but effective.
It's very versatile, and so in a mono white, you're much more likely to see it because like mono white doesn't have a lot of resource removal. It doesn't have that many troublemaker answers either. And so just being able to get rid of anything is peace of mind. Like if you're in some terrible situation, you can always get out of it with Petite Sneeze. But it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Ready. This triggered my last turn, but oh well. It was a May.
So Octavia is continuing to push forward. She really hasn't gotten very slowed down yet by Jeffrey. So at this point, like we're getting closer to the now or never range. Oh, shouldn't Pony Joe still be at the problem?
I think he said it was a May. Let me look.
Exhaust Luna to frighten the thorax with the mask.
Yeah, it just
Yeah, it's
isn't
not
sent
a.
home
Yeah,
instead.
it should have.
So
I'll tell
it,
GP.
okay.
After that, it's the was it Fiendship is magic, whatever?
The question is,
I'll read those, and then I need to read the and after that is
Hopefully he sees that in enough time to help him out. Oh, he did. Never mind.
All right, he got there. Didn't even need us.
Okay.
do you have the touch? Do you have the power?
no, because
To play under arrest on Octavia.
I'm not here for G1.
Wow. Under
Yeah.
arrest on Octavia.
Prism Light
It's just
was talking about under arrest earlier in chat.
Luna to here.
yeah, true. So what it reminds me of is the fact that this Grogar deck really wishes that it was playing against a Luna. If it was playing against a Luna, it would have this game on lock. But all of its answers have just not had the same hit against an Octavia, which just plays in a totally different way. Exhausting Octavia, when, I might add, Octavia is also 3 to move already, that Octavia wasn't going to be contributing anything for the rest of the game. But, you know, you've got the counterplay. You need to slow down your opponent. You might as well try something. So, like, I don't disagree with it, but that Octavia wasn't going to end up at a problem anyway. So it just does kind of hurt that clearly this Grogar is very prepared to play against aggro.
Yeah.
But also, Octavia has been a dark horse this tournament and is showing why she is a competitive main, and it is for totally different reasons than why blue aggro is competitive.
Cursed agrees that mono white can run out of gas with so much cheap stuff.
Yeah, that's always the thing, is Octavia plays from hand and not from board, and that's why Luna doesn't matter, and that's why Under Arrest doesn't matter. But it does mean that, like, Octavia's mid-game, like right here, where, you know, maybe a blue or a yellow aggro would be speeding up, Octavia needs to take a breather, maybe take a turn to draw some extra cards. Now, that's not always true, and that's why some Octavias in the past like to play pink, for example, to just get a little extra draw. But yeah, hand size is definitely an issue.
I just realized why Sticky Glaze isn't a bad inclusion here. If you never flip Grogar, you have a home limit of 3.
Oh, wow, yeah, the home limit is actually really nasty, having only a home limit of 3. It's caused me to flip Grogar, even though, like, it just makes me lose orange, and it's so painful, because I need that home limit.
And this goes to discard as well. Main phase still. 3 redeeming qualities,
What's coming back?
and there's friendship in play here.
Ooh, Princess Twilight.
Okay, so this is the same lock that we saw Grandpa's use in the friendly against Smithers. But Octavia doesn't use Frighten either. So this Twilight is going to be massive when it comes to helping Jeff start running fast. Because now that Joe is 4, and he's still going to be at that problem forever in perpetuity. So Twilight is adding a lot of aggro potential, but not nearly as much control as it did against a mono blue deck.
Wait, does Twilight confront there?
No, she would not be able to confront there.
They just did a
She
double
only has
face-off.
And exhaust Saddle Row for
Maybe they
2
don't.
action tokens.
Maybe they don't see that it's other characters.
Points.
That is a common mistake.
This goes home. Home. And this leaves the home limit. And
Might be too late, but I threw it out there.
Meaning 4 to 8. Draw for turn.
At this point, it's still pretty salvageable, but we're running further.
Which problem did you confront last turn?
me?
Yes, you. So,
Well, it was a double, so that one is fine. It's
Luna and Joe.
Luna and Joe,
Yes.
they were both there?
Yes.
Did you have any eccentric or anything like that?
No.
No.
Okay, hang tight for 1 second, okay?
It's the other problem, guys.
Oh, it's because it's not orange.
Yeah, but Luna can contribute.
They're trying to figure it out.
oh yeah, like why are the streamers so angry at us? I don't get it.
Did you confront Max's problem?
Yes, with
What was Max's problem?
Blacking wasn't bonus.
Okay.
and I had Twilight there, and I had boosted her power with Heartstrong as horses.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. That's our bad.
And it's my turn.
Thank you so much.
I drew
We tried to keep you honest, and you kept us honest.
main phase. Okay, Twilight, all your dudes have +2.
Interesting.
Your
Yeah,
friends
I mean,
frightened.
obviously that is a good use for Heartstrong as horses. It's just a little less common.
Oh, and
Typically-
Prism Light saw it too.
Well,
Typically, you don't see Heartstrong as horses in pure aggro decks. I mean, not to say that Reanimator is a pure aggro, but Reanimator is using Heartstrong as horses kind of honestly in this regard, and it's more common in stuff like Song Abuse, where you're using Spike Master of Ceremonies or the Twilight. So I do admit it slipped my mind that Heartstrong as horses even had a mode that gave characters strength.
I think I
Yeah, Heartstrong's Horses even works on mains. Till the end of the turn.
Pretty interesting. I mean, main phase power gain is, typically fairly weak.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't see it quite as much. Something like Princess Mask is obviously a lot more utility when it comes to just gaining power in the main phase. But I mean, that's why songs are so good, is because they're useful in a lot of different situations. You're
4 action tokens.
you're really just likely to see multicolored players playing songs because they're usually useful.
Pay 1.
Unless they're from High Magic. I think the High Magic ones were garbage.
Pinky's Present is also a song, I believe.
True, yeah. The monocolor songs are pretty solid. There are a few that are amazing, like "It's Gonna Work," which we were talking
Yeah.
about before. And then there are some like the orange one, which is just kind of bad.
Oh, and exhaust her to frighten Rarity.
I got to mess around with the aura by getting rid of the farm over and over again by banishing off the fourth card and had like this game, so I brought it back.
Pancake does point out High Magic did have Luna's Future.
Luna's Future is a DOE card.
Oh yeah, because it's still playable. So that must be more recent. High Magic had things like Pinky the Party Planner. Which Prism is mentioning here. Which was okay. You know what? It was pretty good. I actually played it once upon a time. It had one really good mode and then two fairly weak modes. So you didn't really play it like a song. You just played it as a one-cost dismissal event. But that was pretty solid. And then, yeah, I guess that was Friends are always there. The blue-yellow one, which is fairly good. So maybe I was maligning High Magic songs unfairly. I'm sorry for my hot take.
Oh, and we have an accessorized on Luna. Where,
yeah, that's a very interesting
You have to pay 1 each turn to keep her in play.
Yeah, so with a target like Luna, it really just means like it's a 1 cost a turn tax, because like that Luna's gonna stay, especially now that Luna is 7. She's just indispensable. She's so good.
Although, if you want to be spicy, you could use the Princess Twilight ability to flicker the Luna.
True. Oh wow, actually, that's really good.
But it puts your Twilight at risk if something else is coming.
It's true, but like if you're, spending 2 actions now instead of 1 action per turn. Also, I'm a little confused. Why Jeff went to confront a problem that gave him no points? But I mean, I guess it's fine.
Maybe he didn't see.
Like it's not unreasonable, so I don't know if he gained a point or not there. But like,
maybe he also wants it to go away if there's a single face-off.
Right. Yeah, it's fair. I might just say to wait. Wait until your opponent confronts it and then take the single on your own terms. But, it's not terrible to just have your Luna there. Especially if you're expecting your opponent to double and then just making sure that you could win the double because Luna's huge and Pony Joe is big.
And a Miss Main. We also have a Harsh Judge out there.
Yes, and Cursed is helpfully telling us that it's redeeming qualities.
Yeah, I won't.
I was not aware.
Maybe he was expecting that because of the F-stop.
Oh yeah, F-stop with the redeeming qualities is very strong, which is probably why, so Jeff could have moved F-stop to other strengths by now. Like F-stop could probably be all the way up to 5 or so, but keeping it at 3 may be specifically for redeeming qualities.
Wait, where you were at 8 at the start of turn. You scored 1 for Miss Main. You should be at 11.
Thank you for your honesty.
Well, the stream told us
Jeff being the bigger person and telling his opponent that he should have 1 more point.
8, 16, 19 on my side.
13. You take that.
Okay. 1 bonus.
Okay, so I mean, I do respect Jeff's decision there to put the Luna up and try to contest the face-off, because he does have a lot of strength. But yeah, all Octavia really needed to do was play that darn Princess Mask and that Changeling synergy, and just strength goes through the roof.
Okay, I have a whole moment concern. We'll just sack the 3 frightened friends. Okay, 2 AT, 4 cards in hand, 12 points.
So Max has quite a lead now.
Let's see what the.
I'm not sure how Jeffrey can score points fast enough.
Ready.
Yeah, it is tough. I know Reanimators used to play Mistmane back when there was Cadence, and Mistmane was just like really good with Cadence. But so obviously, I don't know anything about this Reanimator. It could be playing other point acceleration cards, especially in Adventure. There's just a little more to choose from. But inside of kind of bog standard Reanimator, there's not as much in the way of point acceleration. You really try to lock down your opponent and then score 3 or 4 points every turn. Issue being, Octavia refuses to slow down.
Yeah, it's fine.
So I think that's going to be 3 points this turn for Jeff, which is pretty good. Like, because Reanimator doesn't run exclusively twos, like, you're often going to see 3 points in a turn just because you get 2 for confronting and then a 1 bonus. So getting 1 for confronting and then a 2 bonus is like, it's not bad. And that'll keep him close, but the Octavia could honestly win next turn.
Draw a card.
I am kind of surprised that not only did 2 folks choose to run Octavia, but they chose to run Mono Octavia. Now, Mono Octavia has absolutely shown why it's worth playing. Like, it looks very powerful right now.
Go to Scarface.
But people hadn't been playing Mono Octavia. People did play, like, people have played other types of Octavias way back in the past. It's not like, back when Octavia was a new card, it was only played mono. People played all sorts of other colors. So it is interesting to know that independent folks who looked at Octavia and really dug into it agreed that mono was the way to go. Because that's not something I would have predicted beforehand.
9. Okay, so I'm up to 11.
See, Pancake, the only way we see past Troublemakers is Petite Sneeze.
And exhaust
Maybe some white dilemmas.
for my 2 action turns.
Oh, and cracking the case. Good call.
Yeah,
person.
we did see cracking the case in the first Octavia game, which was definitely very strong.
Oh. If you just spend an AT, it's fine.
Oh, that must be the AT from Accessorized.
Yeah, that seems like what they're talking about there. Wow, actually 2 Pony Joes with Twilight is just, I confront this problem always.
Yeah, that was a fortunate 2 bonus before. And another 2 bonus.
Pass turn.
Soft time.
You are active player. You went first. I am. Active, he went.
Turn done.
Okay. I'll be honest, I think I can win this turn though.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, 3 turns left. Okay, so soft time is pretty soft here.
Yeah, that helps. Lunatics would cost me 3 to move that.
I guess if we're talking about ways that white can historically get around dilemmas, there is another white event that I believe is core legal, sorry, adventure legal, that could move troublemakers. Um, Obviously, that was instantly outshone by cracking the case, which is much better. But especially against farms, where they play two different epics, just having the ability to move them on top of each other and then one of them has to go away, pretty solid.
Score a point. You have the opportunity if you'd like. I figured. I'm then going to spend 3, and I'm gonna play Miss Main.
Okay.
Blows up Miss Main. I'm gonna
Miss Main Chain.
Thorax back
Okay.
to score a point,
I think that puts him at 14.
and then I will spend the 1 on Cadence.
It is worth remembering that
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Octavia gives 2 to
And that'll
attempt.
be the confront if
Okay.
Yep.
Jeffrey can't stop it.
Good game.
I was terrified when you.
That was a good
All right.
close game.
I was terrified.
It was very interesting.
I miss playing Reanimator.
Yeah, so
Okay, this is your
really,
that is mine.
we saw this Reanimator perform
How do we not have pens?
Other people took them.
I think we normally the hotels just have like pens everywhere. I guess that's a COVID thing.
I think I just
Okay, Ista went first. Next.
Got it all set?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. There you go. That was last round of Swiss.
That wasn't. I wasn't supposed to place. Now I have to actually play tonight.
Right?
I think I got through.
there we go. I kicked my headset out.
I see. All right, well, looks like that is the end of Swiss. And then we will be reconvening for Top Cut, probably after the convention goers have had a chance to have some dinner.
In about 2 hours and 17 minutes.
You gonna be at draft tomorrow?
Well, I wanted to get an autograph, so we'll see.
Bring that up. You're gonna invoke the post-con blues on like day 2 of the talk.
Cursed heading out. Thanks for watching Cursed, and see Pancake if you depart. Thanks for watching as well.
Yeah. Both of you have been, quite involved, and that's always appreciated.
See Pancake saying it's too late for people in Central Time.
Yeah, we feel that.
Do they tie?
All right, players. Thank you to everyone for competing in the Swiss rounds of
Let's see if we can hear the top 8.
Paper Adventure Tournament. Ever. You have all shaped the meta, and it is the most disgusting abomination of blue that I've ever seen. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. I'm putting mine on. Okay. With that being said, here are your standings
printed.
from
Go get
top
the
8 to first. They are printing right now, according to R.
Whether the printer lost connection or not remains to be seen.
Oh, so it has to be on the printer.
Okay, printers. The stream is still on, so I can't finish this sentence.
Somebody just announced it.
You heard it from Ara itself. Printers are amazing.
Participating, if you did not make the top 8 cut for single elimination later tonight, please come up and see me. We'll get you your prizes for this event.
Closing my eyes like that'll help me hear better.
More clarity.
Ambassador. You made top 8. 7th place.
now I'm in the same bracket as Bugle.
I heard Godot. I didn't hear. Oh, I heard Smithers at 7. I didn't hear the 8th person.
8th was Sonnet, who I don't believe we saw.
No, good for Sonnet.
Yeah, we're taking a break.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get to see a new deck. I think that might be the only one that we didn't see yet.
Resuming at 9.
But I'll tell you, I really want to know who wins the Salt Cup.
Yes, Pancake Ivory is in. I think he was second.
Was second
Very
or
high up.
third, yeah. I think it was second. All right, well, we're going to shut this down, and we'll be back in 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Thank you all.
See you then, hopefully.